Yeah. What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to Learn How to Trade, formerly known as the Midday Show. That is your girl, Adara. I am Sharif, and as per usual, we're going to wait everybody to migrate over from the other stream now that we've got our own little stream here at Adara. Oh, we already have some people populating the chat. Crazy Stitch Lady. What's up? Darren Eldard. We got Big Callum Mitchell Miller, and then the one, the only, Nimit. What's up, my man? Daryl Finch. We got Darwin. She is a one named Sailor Moon as well. Patrick Lang Lloyd. We got Zip Zane. We got Aft. We got Ponzi Fonzie. Caleb English. What's up? Chris Lagerg, sorry, it's moving too quickly. I can't say it properly. Damn, Raj, we got Cosmos. All right, Juan Pablo, how is everybody doing? I hope everybody is killing it on this Friday. I know I need a day off because I'm getting a little sick, but that's neither here nor there. Dara, guys. Yeah, what can you do about a Katina, man? It's flying around. Guys, NVIDIA is absolutely flying to the high side here. We're at 2 3/4%. We started out the day, believe it or not, at that $478 level. We just broke through $493. So NVIDIA is awfully strong, and we have a possible target of $500 because, I mean, just look at the daily chart. Every single time it makes its way up to that $500 area or thereabouts, it seems to find a lot of weakness, and here we go again, coming into 493 1/4. It's time for a little beak wetter at this level. We'll see what we get. But NVIDIA, I don't see any particular news on it. In fact, I looked over to Neil and I'm like, hey, NVIDIA is actually stronger than Meta, because he was asking me, hey, how come you didn't call out Meta? And he's like, well, no, it's the strongest non-chip name. That had me look at chips. I'm like, what the hell is going on with these chips? And AMD's up 3 1/4, NVIDIA 2 3/4. You've got SMCI, which is the only chip name up on the year, believe it or not, year to date. I mean, we're only a few days deep, but SMCI is up as well. Marvell 5%. I have no idea what's going on in the chip world today, but definitely making up for some of the losses that it had earlier in the week. Chips were awfully weak, if you recall it, Dara. SOXS. We were looking at earlier in the weekend, it was getting shellacked.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I actually have Marvell up right now because I think it is a marvel of a chart. I was looking at this one. This one kept popping up on trade ideas, like, whoo, like kept moving with volume. I kept checking all the sources, couldn't find anything. Just chip strength overall. But yeah, if we get a dip in Marvell, I will enter Marvell. I have not traded yet today because you know, I've been at the big desk, but I do like Marvell. I've also got my eyes on, I mean, NVIDIA as well if there's a dip opportunity. But Tesla, although we are stalling a little bit, I do like the concept of a Tesla long. I like it in theory. Will it be Tesla? Will it be a Mesla? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I do like the, you know, this honestly maybe actually is a good dip opportunity. The only thing that makes me nervous is that this might be a bit of a consolidated top around 240. So I want to kind of wait and see what we do here. But I don't dislike taking part of this to 240 and kind of seeing what happens here. I just want another candle to the upside, candle of confirmation here before I make a decision there. Also, Meta looks great too, but Microsoft looks like a whole little staircase to the upside here. Oh, sorry, Microsoft. But yeah, I'm joking.
We're both tired today. Can you tell?
We're okay. Killing it. But I do like Microsoft here. Also, Amazon looks a skosh. Shout out to Obi. Looks a skosh bull flaggish, perhaps. And I say that because look at this beautiful flagpole we have, and then this little, you know, kind of flag movement. We're falling out of it a little bit, which makes me nervous. But this would be a heck of a profit-taking range should this flag come to fruition. Malomo asking, what does Adara mean when she says, I like the idea in theory? Yeah, I guess it's redundant to say I like the idea in theory.
Maybe you like it in theory and not in practice.
That's true too, right? Like, I like that. Thank you. There we go. But anyways, yeah, always looking at my mega caps, looking at all the chip names.
We know how you love those mega caps.
I do.
All right, Adara, what's on tap for today? Because this whole week we've been talking about finding stocks to trade. So just recap for everybody in case you're just joining us today. Day one, which was Tuesday, obviously, because Monday was a holiday, we did scanners. We talked a lot about scanners, looking for small cap gappers using scanners, all the different types of methods you can use your scanner for, and it's not just for small cap gappers. That was day one. Day two, we talked to the NOS boss. We got him to tell us about how he uses his swing trade scanner on the Trade Idea software. Make sure to check that out. That was Wednesday. And then yesterday, we talked about watch lists.
Yeah.
And I went through my entire watch list, what to have in terms of the data points for your watch list, different columns, I would call them. And then Neil chimed in yesterday about how he did his morning mix, how he found his stocks every morning. And then today, we're going to be talking about...
I'm going to take everyone through sort of what Neil did with his morning mix, but like less cool and no iPad. I'm going to kind of talk through what I do every morning to kind of find the news and what news blotters I use and how I sort through all of the ruckus in the market.
The ruckus.
To both kind of get a sense of what the market's doing every day, and then also to formulate the watch list that we have through Trader TV. So I'm going to be talking about all of that. That is going to be the main thing I am chatting about today.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I just minimized my Benzinga accidentally, so I want to have that up because I will probably be referencing Benzinga a lot because I use Benzinga a lot. Yeah, I just want to quickly get out of this Amazon trade, and then I will commence the lesson because I got into Amazon. I thought we were breaking up. We are breaking decidedly down.
Should I take over for a little bit?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just for
Absolutely.
2 seconds.
Yeah, do your thing.
Then we can start the lesson.
Yes, gotcha. You always do it for me, and it's only fair I do it for you guys. I'm looking at NVIDIA, and there it goes through the top now, 494. We just wet our beak at the whole dollar level. We're long 491.30. We just got prints at the 494 level. This thing is uninterrupted to the high side on my 5-minute chart. Now that is 6 green 5-minute candles in a row on NVIDIA, squeezing awfully aggressive. 3% for the almost $500 name. Guys, we started today out in the high 470s. Now we are in the mid 490s. NVIDIA very strong. And I would say that the chip sector, sorry to be repetitive, but I mean, it is what it is. The chips today as a group are strong. There are a few names, and the exception is for the chips to be red. The only chip name that is red on my watch list is Micron, and it is barely red. It's down 0.11. Everything else in the chip sector is green. Don't know why, don't care. Just gonna trade the price action. That's what we're doing. We have, let's say, a few more outs left on this NVDA as we've been riding this one to the high side here. Some of the other names that I'm looking at, you saw the Katina man. He was involved in Tesla. And then Neil was talking about Meta, some other strong names on the day. We've got Tesla doing the dance with no pants here at the pivot point level. That is the green dotted line on my chart in case you're wondering what the hell all these lines are. Pivot points, if you don't know what that is, make sure to go back and check out the lesson, the 2 lessons that we did on pivot points. Here we go, Tesla having resistance or encountering resistance at that 240 area, just a smidge above the pivot point, but Meta, awfully strong. And this is one of those ones where the pivot point was incorrect, because if you had been looking at Meta for a positive or negative move based upon where it opened up at the pivot point, well, at 9:30 it opened below, but at 4 a.m. it above, but at 4 a.m. it opened below. So a bit of a confusing one there, but in any event, breaking through all the resistance levels that we had. The teal is our level 1, resistance level 1 for pivots. The dark blue dotted line is R2. That's right at 351. It's been holding the 10 EMA awfully well. The only dip at VWAP on Meta was bought up immediately at that 349.25 level. That's really the only retracement into VWAP that I've seen on Meta. But I got to tell you, Adara mentioned this earlier. Softy also looking awfully strong. Started its life this morning in the pre at 367.50. Now we're talking about a 372 touch. Pardon me. So, a lot of mega caps, kind of trying to gain a little bit here after getting shellacked the last 3 days, Adara. It was definitely not a good start to the year for some of these mega caps.
Yeah, it was a very sad, I would argue, start for the year for these mega caps. It's been a great week if you're a small cap. I was just saying Nexamune, which I believe you were you in Nexi earlier this week, I think? Nexamune?
I don't even remember.
It was a small cap. But anyway, so, because I'm trying to remember why I was, because that one has a float of under 800,000, but I was seeing apparently a year to date, I mean, it's been 4 days, Nexi was up at least when I last checked over 200% on the year/week.
Yes, ma'am.
So I mean, if you're a small cap, you've had a great 2024 so far.
Oh yeah.
These mega caps, I mean, like, you know, rotation, right? We'll cycle into it and out of it. But for now, I am really excited to kick off. I'm just gonna, so how I'm gonna like kind of
tell everybody what it's all about.
I've taken some notes. Basically what I want to talk about is first how I kind of sit at the desk, like just me going through my morning until like 8 a.m.-ish when I am, you know, I want to use the word curate, but that sounds way too fancy. Putting together the watch list. And then I also want to
curating. You are curating the watch list.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go for it.
So when I'm curating the watch list, and then also just some tips that I've learned from sources with regards to trading. If anybody has any input as well, any things that they like using, definitely let me know. Thank you, Bears vs. Bulls, for the shout out for the watch list. But for now, I'm going to kind of start with what do I do every morning to prepare the watch list? Or I guess just how do I get my news? So basically what I like to do every evening, like right before I go to bed and then right when I wake up in the morning, I like to check CNBC because I like to kind of get a sense of, I like to CNBC what's happening in the market. You know what I mean? I want to like take a look here, what headlines, what's moving. I like that, you know, I kind of enjoy getting like a quick sense of the general theme, right? What might be some things that I'm looking for? What sectors might be impacted? What should I be keeping an eye on when I come in? You know what I mean? And then I also, and I've said this quite a lot here on the midday as well, but one thing I like to do as well is just put myself in market mode. You know what I mean? Some people have beast mode, I have market mode. In addition to just constantly kind of trying to get like news here and there. What I like to do is I like to watch podcasts in the morning while I do my makeup. Market-related podcasts. So Compound, All In, I'll basically work through the podcast throughout the week. And so what that does is it gives me other people's insights in the market. It kind of puts me in that mood of like, what are people thinking about this week? What other themes have other people noticed who are, you know, very educated, working in the business? I think it gives you a good sense of, again, much like when I, you know, checking the news in the morning and late at night, just gives you a sense of generally the overall overtures in the market and what to kind of expect going into it.
Overtures, sorry, got to interrupt you. You can't just drop overtures and expect I'm not going to hit the word of the day button.
Yeah.
Come on.
So there we go. Also, Don Del Sagno mentioning Dinner for Schmucks. Steve Carell, you've been curated. Yeah, I mean, I love that. That's a great movie, so I appreciate you bringing that up. But also, let's talk about, so just kind of once I get here then, now that I've gotten into market mode and we're ready to go, first thing I do when I sit down at the big desk and get at the computer is I like to pull up a story just to give me a sense of what the heck is the market doing today. So for that, what I'm looking for is what's the SPY doing? What are yields doing? Is there any economic data on watch? Any individual stocks moving? And this is usually what kind of forms that opening paragraph that you see.
So how are you doing that, Adara? So what are you going to find out? Like how are you finding out if there's any news on the S&P?
Yeah. So for example, what we'll kind of pull up is we'll go on Benzinga. I can actually show everybody.
Beauty.
And I'll type in SPY.
I love it.
I will full screen this because why not?
Fantastic.
And then you can see all these different stories. I like the stuff in red because that's when you get economic numbers as well, which is really important. But yes, you'll see stories that just kind of reflect the overall market if you type SPY. Because if you type any stock ticker in Benzinga, it'll give you the stories for that stock.
Right.
But SPY gives you a whole host of stories because it's for the market overall. So any story that will generally reflect the market. So here we go. This one, this was before we got this big pump in the market, but U.S. stocks poised to extend New Year's slump. Focus shifts to December jobs data. So that already, just from that first sentence, I can tell, you know, futures are down right now. December's jobs data in focus, you know, the NFP, and then kind of gives you just, you know, what happened yesterday. That's also key sometimes, right, to give you a sense of what happened yesterday, what might be happening today. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really important here as well. Then you can, again, here, like we have stocks in focus. Palantir with that downgrade. Peloton still trading higher after its Pelotalk moment, according to CNBC, and much enjoyed by Sharif here, Pelotalk. But yes, that's kind of what I'm doing. First thing I like to, and thank you for asking that question. And feel free to jump in too, because I know I sometimes yeah, I don't explain things the best always. But yeah, so I like to just kind of type in SPY, see what we're doing. Also, sometimes what are yields doing, because that can also play a role in how the market's reacting, right? So I think that's all stuff I like to know right away. Just like before I even get into specifics, that also gives me a sense of what individual stocks might be moving, because that can also be really important, right? For when, you know, you're forming the watch list and then generally what is happening. Then the next thing I do is I like to type in on Benzinga, I like to type in each of the Mag 7 stocks, because those ones I find are really sensitive to you know, even like what might be seemingly more minor news stories, right? So the way that Brendan has kind of put it to me is stuff like Tesla, Apple, those types of moves, even if it's like an upgrade or downgrade, everyone has their eyes on those stocks, right? So it's really good to know kind of what they're doing, and if there is a story like that, it's nice to kind of put it out there just in case, right? Those ones, like Apple moving down 3.5% on Tuesday on that Barclays downgrade.
So
you know what I mean?
irrespective of what you've seen in the headlines, you're going to check all 7 of those bad boys,
yes,
because typically they are market moving.
Yeah.
Right, number one, and then a lot of our viewers love to trade them. The Katina Man and the Neil all over them. So you always want to kind of have a good idea of what they're doing, even if it's not like a major headline. Fair?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you for rephrasing that for me. Yeah.
No, I didn't mean to. I just meant to understand it for myself.
No, I
really.
appreciate that too. Yeah, because I know, I feel like, you know, hopefully I'm going over things clearly. If anybody has any questions too, put them in the chat. But I appreciate you asking that.
Absolutely.
And I got to state it.
I get to ask you the questions today.
I know, I like it. But yeah, so that's kind of what my thought process is. Also, with this in mind, one thing I want to put out here too is, and this is, I'm going to mention this later in my news tips as well, right? But when I go into stories, you cannot be biased. Like, I can't be looking for stuff for stocks just because I like how the stock moves or I think it might be moving. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's really key, and I think that's one thing that you just really need to kind of remember is if you're looking for stocks, because the thing is, if you're only looking for certain stocks to move, then you're going to miss it. You're going to miss other stocks maybe, right? So that's why I like to look at all the Mag 7 to see if there's any stories on those, because those are a little bit more susceptible to stories or to upgrades, downgrades, price target movements, etc. Right? So I think I like to see what all of those are doing, and then in general what the market's doing. And that's a good point too. You make a good point about how these mega caps can really move the market. So knowing any stories around them that could move the market is really key. Another example with that Apple downgrade from Barclays on Tuesday, Apple makes up a pretty hefty chunk of the S&P 500, right? So when everything moved down, that might have been partially, at least, because of Apple's big, you know, Apple's got a lot of weight there. So I think that's really important as well. Also, you know, something else I want to talk about here. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, I'm talking to Fabian.
Okay,
go ahead.
Something else I want to, you know, talk about as well. Then what I'll do is once I have, you know, what the market's doing, what are the Mag 7 doing, then I like to check headlines. So, you know, Benzinga, scroll through, see what's shaking. I like to look at CNBC as well. I like to look at routers, yeah.
And I just want to remind everybody, because you are using Benzinga and you're probably going to be using it all of today to explain what we're doing with news blotters, there is a link in the description, guys, for Trader TV Live viewers only. You get a special price on the Benzinga subscription. It's a Benzinga Pro. So I just want to shout out Adara there and our sponsor, Benzinga.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Okay. And so, so what I like to do is I like to kind of get a sense here. And also, Benzinga, what I really like about Benzinga particularly is even if it doesn't have the whole story, what it'll usually do sometimes, it'll include a headline, who published it, and then a link to that article so that you can get a better sense. So one example I'm going to use, Netflix today. Netflix was on the watch list today, and why it was on the watch list.
Let's show their screen,
I saw on Trade Ideas that Netflix was up because one of the things that we have on our Trade Ideas at the big desk
is, zoom in a bit too.
Is stocks that are we generally follow, right?
Beauty.
But yeah, so today, this morning, all of these earlier ones were not here, so all I had was this T-Mobile thing, and then Wall Street Journal reported Netflix considering ways to generate revenue from gains. So now I click on it. There's not the whole story there, but there was the Wall Street Journal link, so I was able to click on that, read the story, parse through it, and get a sense of maybe why Netflix would be reacting to this, right? So that is my I guess what I think is really cool about Benzinga there. And yeah, like I said too, how I was able to notice Netflix moving, and this is another key part of my morning research roundup, is I like to, on Trade Ideas, you do have, at least the way we have it kind of set up there, or Brendan has it set up at the big desk, is all of the stocks that we kind of want to know what they're doing daily. So all of the Mag 7, Disney, Dow, IWM, Netflix, you know, some of the other mega caps as well. they'll be on like a little corner scanner. So if they're moving, then I can see that and I can be like, oh, hey, what's going on? So this is also a thing I want to talk about as well. I'm going to talk more about this when I get into the tips. But sometimes it's like, you know, what's first, the cart or the horse? And by that I mean, do you look at market movement first or do you look at news stories first? For me, I like to have kind of a combination, but I also want to put out here as well that sometimes just because a thing is a news story doesn't mean it's going to be moving immediately, but I still think it's good to know the story. This is another huge thing I learned from Brendan that I really appreciated, is it's like, even if it's not moving right away, it's nice to have that context and be cognizant that, hey, this thing might react to that news. For example, Netflix didn't really end up reacting to this story today. It's up 0.1%.
We have a special guest, Adara.
Oh, she can keep going.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
You invited me.
Salad?
Yeah, I know. I didn't say anything.
There's some cold tortellini.
And I gotta tell you, I love the colors of the
Very
salad
nice.
too.
So for a walk, it's a little brisk.
It is, isn't it?
Risk, I like that. But yeah, so I thought that was, and thank you very much for the salad cameo. There should be a Sean salad button. I like that.
There is. Oh, there's not the salad. There's fruit salad. Fruit salad and food segment. Those are the ones we have.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like a combination of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that is, yeah, very, very neat there. And so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, even though Netflix didn't end up moving on this gaming news, it was reacting pre-market. So it's still nice to, you know, be able to know, check Benzinga and get a sense here too.
Bang.
And so also another news source that I want to, you know, introduce with some caveats is sometimes stuff on social media can be helpful to kind of get a taste for what the market's doing. Now, with that in mind, always triple, quadruple check sources. What I usually like to use social media for is more to see like, hey, is a stock being brought up? Is this a stock that other people are noticing moving? One example I want to use too is even today with Marvell. I was looking into Marvell because I was at the big desk. I was looking at trade ideas, seeing it, you know, we kept popping up on volume. I was like, what the heck is going on? Benzinga didn't have anything. CNBC didn't have anything. Google didn't have anything. So I go on Twitter and I just type, and also this is, you know, if you're going to search tickers on Twitter, or X, I guess, the key is $ and then whatever the ticker is. So, sorry, $ MRVL. So I click that and then I see kind of, oh, here, I'm just going to get some water here. For like 2 seconds, if you don't mind. Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
thank you.
Let's have a look at... Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. Let's have a look at what NVDA is doing because it did break that 495 area. What are you printing on? The Katina man is still holding Tesla short, and he's over $1 in the money now. And he's short Apple at 182.70. So anybody following along the Katina man's trades, just... I'm not saying that. Anyone following along the Katina man's trades, just be updated there. Oh, as on the sticky note. God, bro, you gotta explain it to me. I thought you were trying to be all biblical, right?
I thought it was like a NAS reference too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, as it was written, because he wrote it on the sticky note, right? So, guys, this NVIDIA trade, we did get immediate resistance once we broke 495. Technically, the high on the day is 495.47, but there is a topping tail candle here through 495, so this concerns me. So let's have a look at what I'm talking about. You get that decided break through the $5, whole dollar, $10 level. These are all areas that we keep an eye on for resistance, and then we want to see how they trade at those levels. So right away, what I see here, a topping tail candle, to me, you know, I don't want to put too much stock into one candle, but it is an alert for me to be on the lookout for possible retracement. This is the topping tail candle I'm talking about, where it, you know, this typically shows either aggressive profit taking or shorts instituting new positions at that level, especially when it comes into that $5 level, the $10 level. Typically, you'll see it around those levels. And then it's followed by a candle with a lower high, followed by now a red candle. So I'm on the lookout here for possible retracement. Where could we find some support if we continue to trend down? Well, first and foremost, I'm looking at resistance level 2 on pivot points. That's just at that 490 and a third. If that doesn't hold up NVIDIA, below that we have 489 where VWAP happens to be. So if you're looking short for here on NVIDIA, I would warn you against taking counter trend trades. But if you're a mean reversion trader and that floats your boat, go for it. And here are some possible profit targets. I'm talking about R2 at 490 and a third, and I'm talking about 489 at VWAP. These could all be interesting profit targets. I'm not going to participate in that. I want to see if it makes its way back up above 495 and starts knocking on the door, that $500 area, I want all the smoke if it does that. We'll have to wait and see. It's doing the dance here in the high 493s, Adara.
Yeah, thanks for letting me take over there. Sorry, yeah, my throat has been doing a thing for the last couple days, so I apologize for that. But yes, I am back. Thank you for
absolutely
taking over on that. And yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, a lot of these mega caps kind of moving more to the downside now. But anyway, yeah, I would like to kind of continue here on that. We were talking about how X or Twitter can sometimes be helpful just to kind of get a sense of if people are talking about the stock, because sometimes that can, I guess, impact the movement, right? So it's like if you have a lot of people mentioning, oh, maybe a squeeze, right? A lot of these small caps too get lots of hits on social media. So what I'll do is I'll search the ticker, $, you know, how the normal ticker life, and then just type in the ticker. Then sometimes you can see, hey, is it getting a lot of mentions on social media? Maybe that's what's moving it if you don't have specific kind of news there, right? I think that's a really important thing to know. So also, with that in mind, though, of course, anything you see on X, usually I like to kind of either wait to see, you know, does Benzinga end up having the story, CNBC end up having the story. I'll also Google and see, hey, is there anything else kind of going on with this name beyond what we have here on X? But yeah, like the main caveat I want to say here is don't, you know, it's someone random online, right? I mean, I say that and we're talking here online, but anyone can post anything. So I always like to triple check what is shaking here on if I see anything on X, because, you know, you don't know 100% if that's real. Different people have different opinions. So I always like to triple check the sources on that. So yeah, so I think that's something I kind of like to know as well. And then also, like I said, another thing I like to do when I'm formulating or curating the watch list is what's moving on trade ideas. So like I said, you know, there's a couple different categories on the big desk for trade ideas. We also had Michael Noss, shout out so much to the Noss boss, as he is called here, for coming on and being here with us on Wednesday and sharing what he, specifically his swing picks, which I thought were really cool. Yeah. But some of the things I look for when I'm both, you know, on the big desk in that 9:30 to 11 area, and also when I'm up there in the morning for the watch list, which was kind of what I'm focusing on right now, is being able to kind of like scroll and see, like, you know, like what is moving. So how it's kind of set up for us in the big desk is, for the green side, it's the biggest movers by volume. So usually that's going to be taken up by some small caps as well. So that's also nice, because what we like to do in the watch list is usually have a couple small caps, right? So what I'll do here is I'll see usually the top of the watch list is going to be, or sorry, not the watch list, of the scanner here on Trade Ideas is going to be a couple, you know, massive 100% plus small cap movers. Then what I'll do is I'll type the ticker into Benzinga. So for example, one of the movers we had earlier today, INGN. So then you can see, oh, it has here, I guess, Citron Research posting something about INGN. This was, I think, sort of the opposite of a short report. It came in the, you know, in the middle of the trading day, basically talking about potential buyout candidate for INGN. So then I know, oh, hey, this is why this is moving, right? What I like too about Benzinga is that they have a lot of coverage on a lot of these small caps with, you know, with buyout news, LOI, letter of intent news. I find Benzinga has a lot of coverage on that sometimes other sources won't have, because obviously, you know, CNBC can't post everything, right? There's a lot of market news. So I like Benzinga for my little small cappy stories, of course, specifically. Another thing too, on the flip side of that, the other thing that we have on Trade Ideas that I like to use for news gathering and stock moving purposes is the ones that are moving down. So that is organized, that the ones that are on the high side are organized by volume, the ones moving to the downside organized by percentage. So Mobileye yesterday, as you can imagine, was at the top of those pre-market movers to the downside, because we did have that news on Mobileye. So that's like what I can see. I can sit there right away. I can be like, hey, there might be some news on this. Not a small cap moving down, X% down, to quote Sharif. And then I type it on Benzinga. I'm like, hey, what's going on with Mobileye? Then I get the news. And then you can kind of get a sense there. So I think really it's a combination. To me, it's a nice little synthesis, as, you know, symbiotic relationship between what's happening in the scanners and what, you know, Benzinga, which is my main news source, but also being able to, you know, cross-reference CNBC, et cetera, right? So I think that's kind of my take on the, you know, the process of finding some of these watch list movers. Are there any questions in the chat? Definitely, I have some tips as well for general my news grabbing, but if there's any questions in the chat, anybody has, like, you know, what they use anything like that. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I've got questions for you, but we got to take care of some housekeeping first. Dara, we are brought to you by Search Trader. Virtual account funding of up to $1 million. Keep up to 90% of the gains. Enjoy simple trading rules and 24/7 live customer support. Shout out to the good folks there at Surge Trader, who, by the way, still have their trading contest on for January, baby. 100,000 fake smackaroos, and if you're number one, you get 1,000 real bucks for winning that. So make sure to check that QR code right on the side of your screen there. If you are interested, just pull out your phone, open up that camera app, and scan that bad boy to get started today. Adara, NVIDIA looked like it started basing out here, Adara, at that 494 level. I'm unsure about what to do with this one. It did come into 493.5, seemed to base out, hold its level at 493. Now we're getting that move back, possibly into that 494.5, maybe for that eventual break of 495. It was, let's call it a healthy retracement off the initial puncture of that 495 level, but we're going to need to stair step back up. I don't want to see lower highs. Lower highs, no go in my book. It means the trend is changing, and especially if we get that lower high followed by, can you guess what?
A lower low.
How come I can't hear the bangs? Yeah, it's not as
silent.
exciting when you can't hear the bangs. Like, they probably can hear it on their side, but, you know.
Also, that reminds me of the story you were telling this morning about your TV.
About what? Well, remind me. Oh, yeah. Sean doesn't know this story, but when again, the viewers know this. I was a viewer of this show before I was ever on, before I was on this floor. So I have a 4-screen setup at home, right, for my trading desk. That's just the way I was. And then I didn't really want to allot any of the screen to the show. I mean, I went and I got like a discount TV for the show. So I would put the discount TV on the side of my computer, and then I had the show running on it. And then I had a package. This is during the pandemic. I got an Amazon package downstairs, so I left my TV on, I left the computer open, and I went and got my package. And then Sean was trading Neo at the time, and he was yelling so loud. I got complaints about noise complaints because I actually have the video saved from that day. He was trading Neo. I think it was in the summer of 2020, pretty sure, or 2021. I'm not exactly sure when it was, but anyway, it was 2020. I'm almost certain it was 2021, something like that. I forget. Anyway, and then I got a noise complaint. That was the whole thing about that. So noise. I like to have the audio up. It makes the ambiance that much better, Adara. That's just my way I'm looking.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just was thinking about that with regards to the bang button. I was like, I may as well,
right.
Put that story out there. Yeah, I think, very cool. And I appreciate that. So yeah, now I mean, also Saad Mahmood, I was asking, what do other people use when they're putting together their watch list? Saad's saying he uses a tool called Scans. Yeah, really cool. I mean, I think like everyone, like I said too, with regards to Sharif showing his watch list yesterday, everyone's gonna have their own system, right? Everyone's gonna have different stocks they care about. Sharif has honestly a meticulously organized system that I think is really cool.
It's pretty crazy.
And and you also have separate ETF lists. You have your value stocks list. Like you've got it all organized, right? Everyone has different kind of systems, different systems of organization. Also, Dat Kim saying that he's been here since 2020, or they've been here since 2020. So shout out. Yeah, I think. But yeah, so back to kind of the news thing. I think really everyone's going to have their own process. So obviously it's a little bit different because I'm putting together a watch list, trying to keep in mind too what the viewers will be trading, right? What kind of stocks everyone here will be trading. What and one of the biggest things I learned when I started as well, right, is the difference between what makes a day trade stock. Which stocks are going to trade a lot during the day. It doesn't just matter that a stock's moving and that it has a story.
And how do you what's that an indicator for you that it's going to be a day trading stock rather than maybe an investing stock?
I like that. I mean, one of the things I think I look for is anything with a really high, I guess, price point. That is, some like the Costco's, for example, aren't always necessarily going to trade during the day.
The Chilean nightmare is like a bad trade turns into an investment, right? Because you end up bag holding. No, but Brendo, when he was showing you how to do the watches, he made you focus on one thing in the pre-market. He told you this is what's going to be one of the more important things to know that there's going to be eyes on it. What is that thing?
Volume.
Bang. So we're looking for, oh, I didn't actually mean to hit that, but I'm sure he's probably $1 in the money, so it's all good there. Volume. So for example, when I show you a story sometimes, I say to you, look, Adara, Qualcomm's doing this. We'll look at Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Qualcomm's doing bupkis in terms of volume.
Yeah.
So we're kind of not convinced it's going to be one of those ones where we can get in safely as day traders, right? Because we need liquidity to be able to get in and get out, especially to have tighter spreads. If we don't have tighter spreads, that just costs us money to get into a trade, and that is a lot based on volume.
Yeah.
So I know that that's something you do.
No, I
you don't
thank
think,
you for
I know
mentioning
that
I
for a
do that.
fact you look at volume.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to remind you about it. That's all.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing it up. Because, yeah, like for example, Sharif will bring up a story and I'll be like, oh, check. And then if there's volume, I'll totally add it. But
Yeah.
if there isn't any volume, I can't. Because
I
the
get
thing
shafted.
Is, right? Yeah. The thing is, too, is I really, what you kind of want to do is be able to provide value, right?
Yes.
And that's a big thing that we talk about here. Brendan talks about a lot. One thing I always have in my mind is how can I provide value? And if the stock isn't really moving, if there isn't really volume, or if it's up like 0.2% with like less than 100,000 shares of volume in the pre-market, you know what, I guess why am I going to add it? You know what I mean? And I think the thing is too is, and I'm going to get into this in the tips as well, but sometimes things move without a catalyst and they have really crazy volume and then you include that instead, right? So it's not just it has a story, it must be included.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the stock moving off that story?
Exactly.
Or one of the biggest things that I had to learn, and that, everyone, everybody here has been really helpful with me, Brendan as well, is basically like, sometimes if there's multiple catalysts, my biggest question would be like, well, which catalyst is it?
Right.
Include them all. Don't make decisions. Don't decide. Like I'm just one here.
Can I ask you a question
Yeah.
too? So now you've been doing this a few months now, right? And you've been with us for more than that, but
Yeah.
you've been responsible for the watches for a few months. Are you starting to kind of be able to tell this is an important catalyst, this is a nothing burger?
Yeah, I think
Right?
so.
And that comes with repetitions, experience,
exactly, right? Yeah,
Right?
practice makes perfect. And I think too, like the biggest thing is I think I'm now more confident in including a story or not including a story.
Bang.
Which I think that too comes from, I feel very lucky that, and I say this a lot when it comes to trading as well, but I feel very lucky that I'm in a space with so many experienced people like, Sharif, Neil, Brendan, all here in the pre-market.
The Katina man.
Yeah, Sean as well,
Yeah.
because like people like while I'm making the watch list and stuff too, right?
Yep.
And so while I'm here in the morning, sometimes I'll be like, oh hey, like, is anyone seeing any stories? And then we can all kind of bounce ideas off each other, right? Or stuff that Neil's watching, Sharif's watching.
Exactly.
Stories that Brendan's seeing. Then, like, I think too, it's really collaborative effort, and I think with all these eyes and ears, and also with
Exactly.
Everybody, I think it really helps give a sense too with all of these experienced traders. Sean, Neil, Brendan, Sharif, everybody on the floor as well. Like, now, when you get to talk to people, you get a sense of what traders care about. And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like I've learned here as well, what you were saying with like experience and repetition. I think being behind this desk here in the midday has been like, I think instrumental, because now I really understand the importance of volume. I really understand why these catalysts matter. And then I feel like, being in the position where you have to trade, putting yourself in the position of the people that are reading the watch list, the people that are sitting here, has really taught me a lot, and I think has been invaluable. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like when I get in the morning sometimes, it's you and Neil that are always here, right? So I'll look over at Neil sometimes and be like let's just say the Mobileye thing, and I don't really understand what's going on. And he'll already have researched it, he'll already have known exactly what's going on because he's involved in that particular name. And that's the beautiful thing about being with people on the desk, that you bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah.
And what I missed, you picked up, and what you missed, I picked up, and you kind of like fill each other's voids, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
it's like teamwork. It's really, it's like
make the dream work, baby.
Making the dream work through teamwork. And I think what's cool too is one of the biggest things Sharif and Neil are always kind of laughing about this, because if there's a story that I see and someone's like, oh hey, why is this thing moving? I'll be like, oh I know, because and I think that's
you go ooh,
right? I was like, ooh. And then I'm like, oh sorry, got a little worked up there. But yeah, because I think too, like I said earlier, it's sometimes knowing the story, even if the market isn't reacting to it right away, it's good to know the story, because then if the market does react, then like for example, a couple days with Roblox and the Nicki Minaj story as well, there was another catalyst with Roblox that day too. I saw that this was, it was, moving, and I kind of found the story on it. And as I was typing up the story, Neil's like, who wants to tell me what's happening with Roblox? And I was like, oh, I know, right? I think part of it too is like, it's really nice to kind of, I guess, come into yourself and figure out what news is helpful. And I think for anybody who's really new to trading, you will figure it out through experience and just kind of absorbing the market. One of the things I was told, like even, you know, back to the interview process, is that this is the type of experience, you know, day trading is really the type of experience. And I've seen this too, like since too, with talking to people, learning more about the whole ecosystem, is that day trading more so maybe than swing trading or long-term investing, you have to be really like, you know, diving in head first in the market all the time. All the time. Right? So I think, and that's what I mean, like, you know, doing my makeup and watching podcasts, right? Like, you know, seeing CNBC all the time. I think it really helps me get really involved in the stock. So I think that's really important. Also, Quan Tran here, I just saw this and I had to laugh. Remember what you learned about volume? That means no more trading Lily randomly. In my defense, I've been better about that. Lily has been above a milli the last couple days, but I do see what you mean. I think honestly, being at Eli Lilly when volume was low actually helped me learn about that because you learn through experience.
Absolutely agree. Sharuz 72 with a very good comment in the chat as well. And I think Michael Moss would probably agree with what they're saying here. He says, Adira, some traders don't look at the news at all, only charts. What do you think about this approach? Well, I think Sharuz, Michael Moss would agree with you wholeheartedly. All he wants to know is that there's a catalyst. He doesn't really care about the details of the catalyst. What he cares about is how the market reacts to that catalyst. Does it absorb it in a positive way or a negative way? And if it's positive, is it positive level 10 or positive level 2, right? And the way he's able to determine that is based on price action and some other indicators as well he uses. So that is kind of the life of a chartered market technician who doesn't care about the fundamental aspect of why a stock is moving, merely the technicals involved. You are not wrong when you say that, but I think more people are inclined to want to know a little bit more about the details. Whether you agree with that approach or not isn't really the point. The point is kind of we want people to feel like they're in the wheelhouse and to be comfortable trading. And then once you're comfortable, you can kind of fine tune your skills later, and then you can drop altogether the, you know, the research about why this is moving and just simply look at the chart, look at the technicals, and make your decision off that. You are not wrong. Shout out to you. Thank you for pointing that out, Sharuz. Quickly, Adira finished showing you the Benzinga component of things, and they are one of our sponsors. Another sponsor of ours is Trade Ideas, and they also include news components. So remember when I showed you my watch list? Remember when I showed you my scanners? Well, this middle component over here, the green, that's the scanners. Everything else on the left, those are the watch lists. Top, big tech. Middle, chips and semis. Right here, crypto. Below that, ADRs. And when I click on any of these bad boys, you get the company screen changing as well as the news. So for example, case in point, BNZI. Yes, I say Z because I'm Canadian. I click on that one. I want to know why the hell it's moving, right? It's gapping up 80%. Well, down here, I got all the news items related to this bad boy, and I can see exactly what's moving in the moment. So it's not just about looking for news stories using your news blotters. It's about looking about what's moving, what's gapping up, and then looking at as to why. Again, if you're a chartered market technician, you probably don't care. You just want to see if there's a news entry, and then you let the price action dictate whether it's positive or negative. If you're more fundamentally inclined, right, like my friend Alfred, you're going to want to digest that piece of information because it fits within a larger puzzle of the information that you have on that company. For example, let's take Nat Gas, right? We have El Nino this year, and as a result of that, weather is a little warmer. It's more temperate in the north, more tempered in Europe. As a result, we don't need as much nat gas. Nat gas prices get depressed. However, there's the Red Sea issue. All of a sudden, a lot of tankers are avoiding going through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal in the Sinai because of attacks there. Now, that's had an effect on nat gas lately. Nat gas prices go up because the tankers that hold natural gas are so sensitive that, a small hit could cause a huge catastrophe. So unless you are, taking every piece and fitting it within a bigger puzzle, you're not going to have the full picture. And you need the full picture if you're a fundamentally based investor, not necessarily if you are a technically based investor. So all of these bad boys will have company-specific details, and that is in this white rectangle over here where it says the price and the float, etc. And then below that, there's going to be the news blotter. You can click on that bad boy. It pops up, you know, a browser on the side. This is a story about ASML. And I got this link to Market Beat, which is a free site vis-a-vis the what's it called? The news blotter on the Trade Ideas software. Shout out to Michael Noss and his crew over there. Yeah. I'm just reading some of the things here, guys. Guys, you're taking what I'm saying too literally. You're looking at the nat gas story. What I'm trying to tell you is it fits pieces of the puzzle. Don't be so literal. Understand the bigger picture of what I'm talking about, not this specific example. I could have come up with umpteen examples. I just chose that one for the sake of brevity and for the sake of time. All right, so don't nitpick. Try to digest what I'm saying for the bigger message rather than the specific nat gas whole thing. That's not what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's go now and have a look at what we're doing on NVIDIA, because NVIDIA is retracing and it did break 493. So it is putting those those lower highs and those lower lows. The best we could do was an out at 494 3/4. We got long 491.30. We're back down at 492.5. If this doesn't start stair-stepping up to the high side, I gotta wonder how long I'm gonna hold this bad boy. But let's have a look at the chart and figure out where our out should be. Now, first and foremost, this was kind of the candle that gave away everything. This is called a topping tail candle, and a topping tail candle can be indicative of a number of things. For our purposes, it's important because it came at, you know, what I would term an important level. The $5 level, the $10 level on these larger stocks tends to be psychological support and resistance. In this case, it acted as resistance. So a topping tail candle is indicative of either aggressive profit taking at the whole dollar or $5 level in this case, or aggressive shorting. This is kind of how, you know, sometimes shorts tip their hand, because once you get a break of that key level, then you'll have a lot of people piling in with shorts, and then this is typically the kind of candle that you get subsequent to that. Again, it was echoed by another topping tail candle subsequent to it, but it was being engulfed by the previous candle. That was never a good look, a bearish look there, and then you had a move down. Let's see how long we hold 492. I think if we break 492, I'm just going to take my my winnings and get out. I have a very small piece left anyway. The majority has been already removed. But if we can get that 495 break, I want to participate in that, especially if we can move up maybe later in the day into that 500 level. We know for a fact from the daily chart that that 500 level has been resistance over and over and over again. Let me just show you here real quick, removing the pivot points so that they don't mess up screen. Here is the look on NVDA, and you can see this $500 level has always been met with immediate selling subsequent to it. There's only been like a handful of times, I think, a couple of times where we actually closed above that $500 level. This one over here, going back to August 23rd, then it was followed by a monster red day, and then you had this level over here, 500, yes, this one over here back on November 20th when we did close above 500. We closed at exactly $505, and then the next day was another huge negative day where we actually found our way back down into $468 at the low, but we did end up getting bought up a little bit, came back into 491. So 500 has been an over and over and over again repeatable resistance level on NVIDIA, and if we can participate in that today, why not? We'll have to hold this level and break above 495 for that move up. All right, some people were asking about the small cap gappers, baby. Well, here they are. I've got 4 on my screen today. If you've got more, let me know. I've got BNZI. That's this one over here. We'll get to that one in a second. It's holding that $3 in VWAP area. This could be a good ABCD setup, or another term that I have for the ABCD setup is the VWAP hold high of day break, essentially where a stock makes a big move up, holds VWAP for the majority of the late morning, early afternoon, and then when the volume comes back in later in the afternoon, it breaks a high day, in this case $3.55, setting up for a good possible VWAP hold high of day break. But the one that's really moving now, Adara, is ACON and ACON. Convict music. All right. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
This one, I don't have any details on ACON, so let's pull up trade ideas to see if they've got any deets. ACON.
Oh, it was a halter yesterday too to the downside.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the float on this one, a monstrous 368,000 shares. I'm being facetious for our new viewers. That's very small float, and a float is essentially how many shares there are available to trade. The smaller the float, the more volatile it can become, because it can be easily manipulated by individuals or companies or whatever algos with larger accounts. With respect to short float, it's marginal. It's almost like negligible, 1.17% for a Clarion Incorporated, dancing with that $4. Now let's see if it can break $4. It's having trouble at this level. It already took out $4, but can't really seem to hold above it. So ACON on my watch list as well. Let's go into the other one over here. SGD, Reliable Rudy. I see you, my man. Reliable was asking me earlier about SGD. I told him, look, I felt it was a little too consolidated for my liking. When he asked me, it was kind of like right around here, around 11. It was holding VWAP. It is now south of VWAP. You guys know how I feel about these small cap gappers that are trading south of VWAP. They're on my S list and they're not tradable for me. If you want to take them, go for it. But I need this to be above VWAP and to start showing me either higher lows or higher highs. Prove to me that you're still in play and you're not gonna just stair step down and give up the ghost. That's not the stock that I want to participate in. So SGD also on my watches. And then the Adara was asking me, she's like, you were trading NYSE a couple of days ago, and like, yes, I was. Look, because I was drawing trend lines on this bad boy. So you're right. Thank you for reminding me that, Adara. Sometimes, we go through so many tickers, I forget.
No, it's okay.
The names.
Yeah, and I know with the small caps too, it's like day in and day out, they're going to be different.
They are.
Yeah.
They literally are. So NEXI, big boy move, coming off that close yesterday at $5.90, and we rocketed up all the way to $8.34. So 8 1/3 is the high of the day, but we're giving up the ghost now below VWAP, which puts it on my S list for small cap gappers, and we're also now making lower lows. So this was the area over here that I want to see hold. This $7 area, we kind of dipped there at around 10.15, got bought up immediately, and then that's when we made the new high. So I want to see 7 hold here. If 7 doesn't hold, I'm no longer interested in it. This one did halt, Adara, earlier right at the bell there, halted for about 5 minutes, gapped up off that halt level of 656, gapped up into 742 within a second, and then eventually again made that 8 1/3 high. I'm looking for a 7 hold. I wouldn't get long though at 7, and the reason I wouldn't get long at 7 is because it's south of VWAP. It needs to get above that 7 3/4 area where VWAP is currently for me to get interested. Otherwise, I want nothing to do with NYSE. I don't take it long here. All right, let's look back here at our friend NVIDIA before we send it back to Adara. And it did hold that 492, and we're back now in 493 territory. Given where I entered, I can afford to pack my patience here a little bit more, see if we can get that 495 break, Adara.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like definitely Next Immune seems immune to steadily going to the downside, at least lately. It's been a really great couple weeks for NYSE. I cannot wait to see what happens NYSE for Next Immune. I need to stop. But yeah, so I mean, I go back a little bit to the well, I actually want to finish answering that question that Sharuz asked in the chat, which I think you answered really well with regards to the, what do I have to say with regards to traders who only use charts? And I think my thing is too, is I think the purpose, I think it really depends on the purpose. Like I know, I'm not sure because I don't really swing, but I know like with day trading, you really need strong volume, right? With swing trading, intraday volume might be less relevant, I'm not sure. But I think why I could not necessarily just look at a chart, at least for day trading, and especially for putting together the watch list for those purposes, is I like to know context and I like to know volume. Which I mean, that can be on the chart as well, to be fair, but I like to kind of see how much volume have we done so far today, right? Is there any news on it that might make it run further? Do you know what I mean? I really like context. And so I think, especially for the watching purposes, it's kind of harder for me to just hop in here and be like, the stock is moving. Do you know what I mean?
Bang.
And I think, especially for what we're talking about today, I think I really like, like to have a rounded picture. Even one of the ones I had on the watch list today, it was a little baby, teeny tiny small cap. Oh yeah, okay, so it was AIMD. So that one, we didn't have any news on it, but so I was able to find, here's how many shares it has. Here's the float, you know what I mean? What's the market cap? Because I think sometimes that context can impact how something moves. That's why, Sharif just mentioning, Neximmune has a float of under 800,000 shares. So that is going to be a little bit more volatile, right? Things with a larger short float. We were talking about Carvana recently. Carvana has, fairly significant short float. So I think definitely something to, keep in mind. So I think, yeah, really interesting time here. And I think, why I cannot just look at a chart, especially for putting together a watch list I'm going to send to people, is I really think that sometimes it doesn't give you the whole context. And it's nice to kind of know how things have moved and how they're maybe more likely to move. And so I really appreciate you asking that, Sharuz, and I hope that question was answered in a satisfactory way. I think Sharif answered it really well as well, the question that Sharuz had with regards to, the chart, but I just wanted to kind of hop on it as well. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, now I can kind of move on a little bit to, I know Neil's coming on soon, but I can kind of start with my, some tips or some things I've learned. So one of the biggest things I've learned, and I think, that comes from both from a news perspective and from a stock perspective, if a story isn't there, it isn't there. So don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Like if I see something pop up in Benzinga and the stock's not really reacting, or it reacts for a second and then not really, or, and this is where volume comes in, or there isn't much volume in that reaction, maybe it's nothing. You know what I mean? Even when I say something pop up on Trade Ideas, and there's like, oh, there's a volume alert, or there's some alert, and then actually, the stock's only traded like 70,000 shares. It might be a relative volume alert, but it's not, not something that I'm going to really, burst in on breaking news. You know what I mean, or something that I'd necessarily include in the watch list. So I think that's one of the biggest things is like, you can't, and I was mentioning this about bias earlier today too. You have to come in like, in market mode, but not in any specific stock and not, rooting for anything, just really open-minded and like, let the market tell you what it wants to do. Do you know what I mean? It does not care about your feelings. And the biggest thing too is that like if a stock's gonna move, it's gonna move. You can know the story, but don't make a whole mountain out of a molehill with that story if the market hasn't really reacted to it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a really big thing that I've learned that I want to put out there. Also, this is a big. This one took me a while, I think, to learn. Not everything is going to have a catalyst, right? Or sometimes, like I said, they'll move before you find out what the catalyst is. So this morning, I'm going to pull up Carnival, I guess, but I like calling it Carnival for some reason, CCL on Benzinga. So CCL now up 3% and a bit. I kept checking this one this morning because it kept popping up on Trade Ideas, really strong volume. Well, this story about this upgrade didn't come until 8:09 a.m. So by the time it came out, I had already, sent the watch list into cyberspace.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the scanner if you can go to the screen, Chile Nightmare. So go to the scanner, the one that there it is. Okay, so now when you get results, so make the results area a bit bigger. Perfect. Now click one of those bad boys. Yep, like that. There, can you get a news item for that now? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay, yeah, because there it is. You see where the news item is right there?
There we go.
Excellent. So the fact is not just the news blotter is the only area that we can get news information from, but off the scanner on Benzinga as well. When something's moving, we can see why it's moving in the moment just by clicking it, correct?
Yeah.
Can you do that again?
Yeah.
Click AIMD or whatever, BNZI. There you go, and you get all the news right there.
There we go.
Excellent. Yeah. So just wanted to make sure that was possible because a lot of people, if they want to trade small cap gappers, they want to see if the news is bupkis or it's legitimate. You know what I mean?
And one thing too that I like is what Benzinga will do is they'll have like kind of a list of small cap gappers and any relevant things you need to know. So INOS. They say this is how much has risen so far. This is what the market cap is. Like what I was saying too, and answering Sharuz's question. Part of why I personally don't like to just look at charts is because knowing what a company's market cap can be super relevant, especially if you're dealing with a little baby cap or a really teeny little tiny floater. You know what I mean? Like a low float runner. I think it's really nice to kind of know everything you can about the stock before you spread the news on it. This is a huge thing I've learned from Brendan and Sharif, from everybody here is it's better to be right than first. And so
100%.
If I don't know the whole context on a stock, if I don't know what the float is, maybe I don't know the whole context of why it's running. The short float also super important. So I think this has been really helpful. And I think, especially like I said earlier with small caps, I find Benzinga to be a quintessential platform from a small cap knowledge. And also it has a whole list of all the other little small caps that are moving. Inspire Veterinary, IVP. Here's the market value of the outstanding shares. You know what I mean? Like it gives you a whole list, which I think is really nice as well. And if there's a catalyst, it'll usually include that too.
I just wanted to show something here, Derek, because on the future, guys, we always want to look at what we're doing here on the NQ. And the NQ made a nice move up earlier into 16,577, and then it retraced down. And the area where it retraced down was a key area. Not only was it the 100-point level at 16.5, but it also happened to be my pivot point based on yesterday's price action. I like when the two conflate, when there's confluence between the two, because it's like double the amount of possible support at that level. Not saying it doesn't break down. Nothing is for certain, especially in this game, but it's nice to have some confluence between different indicators pointing in the same direction. Let's see if 16.5 holds here. It was an aggressive rejection off that particular level, and the reason is we're keeping an eye on the NQs because we're involved in NVIDIA, and NVIDIA has been giving up the ghost ever since breaking that 495 area, right? And now it's having real trouble here making any newer highs. In fact, I would tell you every single high has been a lower high, save and except for this one over here, but that doesn't count. The general trend is lower highs and lower lows. So we are putting in a retracement here on NVDA. Now, I saw this headline come in on my side chart here for NVIDIA. This was an article that popped up. NVIDIA could generate nearly $100 billion in free cash flow over the next 2 years, says a Bank of America analyst. I'm not going to read the whole thing. He goes by the name of Vivek Arya. He has a buy rating on NVIDIA and a price target of $700. He works for Bank of America, and he believes Jensen Huang's company could generate, like I said, $100 billion in incremental cash flow over 2024 and 2025. Perhaps maybe one of the reasons this bad boy is moving up today. However, it is retracing aggressively now. Sorry for the distortions here on the chart with these dark pool wicks. I'll fix them in a second, but all I need to look at is here, and we are coming down now on NVIDIA into 491. We're long 491.30s. This is not going to go 1 penny against me, because I'm not going to allow it. We're going to cut this bad boy if it comes into my entry position. We wet our beak all the way up into 494.75, but it has retraced that entire move back down. Now NVDA, if you're looking for a possible dip trade on NVIDIA, I would suggest to you 490, because number one, it is that whole $10 area. In addition to that, it is also where VWAP happens to be at the moment. So that should be an interesting long if NVIDIA does make its way back into 490, hit it. I saw his hand move towards the stream deck, so I knew he had intentions. The Katina, I know, right? He's short at 240 and change, and now we just broke down below. Sorry, come on, give me a break. 239.95, he's short, and now we are down to 237 and a third. The Katina man is still holding his Tesla short as Tesla goes negative on the day now, down 0.1% into that 237 and a third area. We are moving down here on the future as well. We did have an initial bounce, Adara, off 16.5, but we are coming right back. Apple's doing bupkis, hanging around 182, doing nothing. So, yeah, go ahead.
Would we say Apple is the dead one for right now?
You know what? I'll take the dead one over the negative one on the day. True. I'll tell you, I've been getting rinsed on this Apple swing that I'm still nicely in the money, over $10 in the money on it. But you know, you don't want to see it go from $30 in the money to $10 in the money. It's not pleasurable.
Yeah, it's been a hard apple to chew on this week. That was a rough one. I apologize. Also, yeah, no, I was just shouting out the animation for the sticky note in the chat. Monty G agreeing with me. It's a really fun animation. Monty G saying, Sean's face is the middle of the flower, the sticky notes are the petals. But yeah, no, so I think, definitely really interesting movement on the market. I'm just eyeing my large caps. Tesla looking interesting for a range short scalp. I'll keep an eye on it. The Piper saying bitter apple. I like that one too. Yeah, you might be bitter if you're an apple right now, but yeah, we will see.
I don't know if I'm bitter.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you specifically. I'm
grumpy.
grumpy.
Right? I'm not
I like
grumpy
that.
today. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but this coffee really helped buoy my spirits. Let's pull that.
I love the amount that you use the word buoy. 'Cause
Buoy,
it's a great
yeah, yeah,
word,
yeah.
and I feel like
Did
it's
I tell you
underused.
my sister and I got into like, say it again, Chile Nightmare? Buoy. Yeah, yeah.
He's just trolling.
My sister and I, because my sister, she used to live in Wasaga Beach and she was on the water, and they have buoys all over the water there, right? And so she would say boy. And we got into a full-out argument whether it was boy or buoy, and apparently it's both.
Yeah.
Depending on what are you from, are you European English
What accent
or North
too,
American
yeah.
English, right? And so you can say both, but I wouldn't say boy. There's a boy in the water. People probably be running to the water. There's a boy in the water, and people will start running. You know what I mean? I think it's boy. Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Chilean
was a
Nightmare was
accent,
asking me how the
but-
British say it. I'm pretty sure it's boy. Is Adam in the chat? Big Adam Deluce, are you in the chat? Tag me.
The Piper saying
It's always
boy
boy
in
in the UK, so I was right about that. Okay, so it's boy in the UK, it's buoy in North America. Diet soda, it ain't boy. All right, bro, don't get upset. All right, go ahead.
But you know, I'm getting a kick out of, where was this comment? The way he says Chilean Nightmare so nonchalantly in convo. Panda. Yeah,
That's his name, baby.
That's Sharif's nickname there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm loving all the, oh, there he is. I love the random shots.
Oh, I
of
missed
Baby
it.
and
Yeah,
Nod.
yeah,
It's a
I
great
love
time.
that. I told, there he is. There's Ram too. Ram's back after going on 3 day dates over the past few days. No, we're just trolling Ram. She's back in the house.
She is.
It's boy, says STU Butler. I know, brother. There's just different versions of English. It's like saying Z and Z, right? No one's right. It just depends on what side of the border in North America you're from. You say Z in Canada, you say Z in the United States. It's just the way it is. All right, guys. Let's see what's moving in the moment. I was being told here by Big John Del Segno that ARM is flunking down. It is now negative on the day, 1 2/3%. We're talking about ARM. What's going on over there? Is that you, Katina, man? Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, I said ARM. The Katina man got excited because he thought I was talking about a firm. But here is ARM, guys. We are rejecting aggressively on ARM now. Come to the chart if you're able to, guys. We did make our way through several important levels here. We started above the pivot point. We broke through resistance level 1, but that was a quick wick, and that was a wham, bam, see ya. And now we are down below support level 1, dancing here, trying to hold 67 bucks, but it looks as if the market now below 16.5, Nvidia now coming back down, ARM coming back down. We're giving up a little bit of the gains here as I'm looking at the side charts, and all the Mag 7 names are starting to curl to the downside here, so we'll have to keep an eye and see what happens. But yet, ARM, guys, the weakest of the bunch here in chip world, down now almost 2%, knocking on the door of 2%. Here comes 67 bucks. We could break that hold on the level. We already broke it. We broke it 66.52, but it was a quick wick, and then we moved back up above, 67. Let's see if we can get that continued move down on ARM, knocking on the door at 2%.
Yeah, no, definitely not, to use a pun that I've definitely used before, strong arming the market over here on ARM, especially with the day with so much other chip strength. I still have Marvell on my side chart. Well, actually, I have Tesla on my main chart right now, but here's Marvell. What makes me nervous is this, I'm seeing a Scotia for top here at 61.12. If it falls below this comfortable area of 60.64, I might short it. But for right now, that is neither here nor there, because we are heading over to the another desk. I was going to say the big desk, but the other desk.
With
Neil.
Neil.
Neil. And thank you so much for Neil for coming on yesterday and today. Exciting times.
Get him, Neil.
Everybody, we had a lot of fun yesterday, sort of talking about preparation and sort of what my morning prep is going to be. Every trader is going to be different. Everyone has their own flavor. Today, a bit of a different story and a bit of a different topic, because everyone's talking about news. Adara, how she gathers the watch list, what's important, what isn't, what sources can you use. I kind of wanted to take us through, like, what do you do trading news, and how how is it different from one story to another, or how does the reaction to news temper your expectations or make you more excited about something? So a lot of times, a wise person once told me, I'm not gonna make it up, it was my dad, said that sometimes using the most simple and extremes examples to make a point is very effective, because it seems like it's obvious, but it's very, very effective in making the point. So I don't think anybody is going to be shocked that I'm going to start with an example of QuantumScape today and yesterday. So we use Benzinga around here. This has already been said. So if you're unaware of the story, yesterday in trade, here we go, QuantumScape trading higher Thursday following positive update on battery testing capabilities from Volkswagen subsidiary. So obviously we know that this QuantumScape has been beaten up, and this is a pretty big story. We know it's a pretty volatile stock, but assuming that you don't really know much about this story, the first thing that I'm always going to do, okay, so you have a headline, no matter what, I'm going to go right on over to, if I've never traded the stock before, okay, in this case, I have looked at and I am familiar with QuantumScape, but you make the assumption that you don't know. And I want to gather information about it, because that's going to seem like significant news. Now, the first thing that's going to jump out to me when I always go through the company profile, and we've been through this before, is, okay, it's a decent sized float, but it's 17% short. When it's a positive news story, I'm looking for there to be, if there's a high short float, I'm like, I already immediately like it a little bit better. It's like it checks one box, then I'm a big fan of it. Then I want to know the average daily volume in that particular case, and I want to have an idea of how it usually moves, like the average true range. This is a stock that had an ATR of 60 cents. I mean, this is obviously going to include the last couple of days after the big moves, but an average true range of 60 cents. So you're armed with a couple of pieces of knowledge almost immediately when you're looking at that stock. It usually moves about 60 cents in a day, which is not a lot, and it's got a 14% short float on a positive story. So when looking at this, I can then come in and say, well, in the pre-market, this stock closed at 650. In the pre-market, it's already made a high at 715, which is the ATR. It's already gapped, and at the open has made a range from previous day to that close of what the normal average true range is. So, hey, there's action on this, and it's in the direction of the news, and on top of that, it's got a short float. So it's got a lot of things that are working for it in this particular case. From there, obviously, you want to do your diligence and what are the key price areas, where do I want to trade? Because if it's going to extend, it's easy to say, okay, well, you got a break here at $7. It goes from $7 to $8. But what's interesting about the stock is go and zoom out. I always say, when in doubt, zoom out. Does this, especially when it's a squeeze play and it's significant news and it's giving you indications that the market really wants to jump off of that news. So you break out off the daily here at 780. You go all the way back further to this level here at 830 on the daily chart. And then you can see how it has that potential explosion. Now, I'm going to talk about Marvell next and how continuation matters. But one thing to keep in mind before I get away from this chart is if you look at day 2 for QuantumScape, look at this 830. I don't think anyone that knows me knows that when you look at where this bounced off of today in reaction to the news, it made that gap. It ran all the way to $10. On the pullback, if you go to the daily chart, a day 2 continuation, people selling the news, it came back to that 830 level. It's always easier to look at an example of how strong something can be and what are the signs that it could end up this strong, so you should shoot for more. Big short float, already moving a significant amount in the pre-market in the direction of the news. It's a beaten up stock, so percentage gains are obviously going to be important. But you have to also look at what about the reaction when it's delayed or nobody cares. What do you do when a stock like Marvell, in this particular case, and look, Marvell had a big move yesterday. If you're going to go in, and I'm going to go back over to Benzinga here for a quick second, and I can tell you, like, let's just do it live, because you go type in MRVL, you click on the symbol. You saw the big move that happened yesterday in Marvell. You're like, okay, well, where's the news? You know, what's going on? There wasn't actually a gigantic news story for the move on Marvell. You dig a little bit further, and I'll save you the trouble. You go to Twitter, and you'll be able to find that JP Morgan a couple of days ago came out of a CEO meeting positive about Marvell, but it had a very late and delayed reaction. So it was in the middle of the day when it made this move off of news that was already known. So this is a bit different. So the market tended to not care as much about the news. All it did is made a slow grind up, and I always check volume to be able to see a reaction. If you were trading this thinking, hey, JPM with a positive note about the company after they met with the CEO, the stock has been beaten up a little bit, it's been dipping down in the daily chart, maybe it's good for a bounce. You're thinking all these things, and then it doesn't do any extra volume off the open. Sure, it goes a little bit of a dip and rip. That's actually not a bad move whatsoever. But it's not excess volume. But what you do want to do in that situation is file away that, hey, this does have positive news on it. It is making a move to the upside. It almost broke out on volume but could not get through the top. And then it goes sideways. Once it hits to very few people, unless for some reason you're trading this or you're one of the people that was social media pumping this, because there's a lot of chatter about that, you're probably not going to be long until it starts breaking out. However, if you have quick access to the fact that it had news on it that was positive, you knew that it was already reacting to said news in the morning, then you have it on the bullish side, and it's pretty clear. Like, it just simply breaks the day's high the day before, and it closes even higher. Now, where I want to talk about continuation is, what is the reaction at the end of the day on volume? It makes this high, and I'm going to go to a lower time frame chart so you can see what goes on here. Because Marvell, as strong as it is, let's go over here. As strong as it is, it makes a top and then just completely flushes back into 580, a $1.20 reversal. The reaction to that is holding higher than normal volume and closing above this 48er. So it holds on to the top end above where it fell into and holds that top channel on decent volume. The next day, does it gap down? Are there overnight sellers? No, it manages to open up at basically the same level the next day. So when you're looking for continuation, how something reacts on news by the end of the day, does it give it all back? Does it hold higher? Does it hold higher on volume is always a pretty key thing for me. If it does that, that's a very good sign for the stock in terms of looking for continuation, and then you get a breakout. So you might ask, well, what the heck happens if a stock doesn't react to news whatsoever? So in Marvell, in Quantscape, you had a direct move from the upside pretty much right away. With Marvell, you had a bit of a delayed reaction in terms of volume, but it was moving up on that news ever so slightly, and then got a little bit of a social media assist, people talking about short squeezes and all that stuff, but you already had a bit of a positive look. It then closed higher, holding on to those highs, giving you a setup for the next day. But it's not always roses when you have positive news. I think we all understand that. Sometimes you can have a situation like Fisker, and I'm just going to tell you that, trust me, there was good news on this as well. So I'll pop back over to Benzinga. We can close Marvell. I can throw in FSR. And a couple of days ago, to the ears of basically everybody and to the caring of nobody, it seems, Fisker did state that they were embracing the dealership model to boost sales. Approximately 100 dealer locations in Europe and North America. And there was multiple news stories and press releases that were coming out in the morning positively for Fisker. I remember reading a couple of them. I pulled up the chart thinking, hey, maybe Fisker is going to go. Why did I think Fisker had a chance to go? Because as usual, I'll pull up trade ideas and look, I already know FSR has a ridiculous short flow, but assuming you didn't know that, 45% short flow. So like a couple of positive headlines. Stock has been at the bottom and just chilling out at the lows forever. It's got a really good chance to go. Everything is lining up for you. This is what Fisker did yesterday. I mean, we have a term we like to use called barcoding. It did absolutely nothing. Now, when you see that kind of reaction to positive news, what do they say? When the market buys bad news, that's good for a stock. When the market sells good news, that's bad for a stock. When a stock with a 45% short float does absolutely nothing when they're hammering out some positive headlines the day on that day, then that might be a sign of weakness in the stock. So in this particular case, you can note the reaction, hey, wait a minute, literally nobody wanted to buy this stock on positive news. If that's the case, what happens if it breaks the support level? Now, in Fisker's case, you actually have to pay for some locates to be able to go short. But as you can see, it was doing nothing. It had news. It did nothing. The news was good. All the reasons you would think would point to the upside. And then it ends up trending down. The other thing that I want to get at here is when it comes to Fisker, I'm in a trade right now, and I'm shorting it off of a key level. So just to get that one out of the way, like you can say continuation or whatever it is. In this particular case, I don't think the continuation trade's an automatic. You're looking for that breakdown because it did nothing. In the case of QuantumScape and Marvell, those are the situations where I think it's a little more automatic to assume continuation because the reaction was as expected. In Fisker's case, okay, you could benefit by saying I'm going short because no one bought it when it was good news. But in the case of Marvell and QuantumScape, they were buying it on the news. It got an acceleration later in Marvell's case. And then the next day, it held on to gains near the close with nice consolidation. It didn't give that back. All the early buying was higher at the open. And then it just stair steps to the upside. In the case of QuantumScape, your reaction, and probably the most extreme as well, was it just only went up and it went up parabolically. So it's a little bit easier to look for signs of continuation in those two names than that Fisker trade. That's a little bit more nuanced. But the things that I think you want to consider are, if I don't immediately know the levels on a stock, where it's been trading, what its average true range is, what the short float is, then I'm not trading on the news. And the reason I keep coming back to that average true range is because that was a big deal for QuantumScape. Like, it's the fact that it has a 60-cent ATR. Now, anybody that's traded the stock knows that it's moved way more than that in the past. This is a $145 stock that went down to like $5. So it's moved much more than that in the past, but it had turned into a stock that was not moving much. And when it was already, from the previous close to the top in the pre-market the next day, had already made that one ATR move in the direction that you wanted, it's a signal of strength. And when the volume is spiking that much at the open, you can get a parabolic kind of day. So just a couple of things that you should look at when you're trying to trade news. Oftentimes, in these situations, you'll be trading something that is not on your everyday radar. That's why I want to go through a few extra steps. These are things that you wouldn't have heard me say a lot about yesterday, because generally speaking, on most days, you're trading things that you are comfortable with, where the primary reason that you're getting in isn't just a news story. You're trading QuantumScape yesterday because of a news story. You're trading Marvell because it had a positive news and then reacted to it on volume. In Fisker's case, you're selling it because literally nobody wanted to buy it when they had positive news and they have a gigantic short float. Not to harp on Fisker, but that's what it is. I think trading the news is important. Sometimes if you have no idea, you can't find a story, you can always sit it out. Always tune into us, because I think one of the best things about Trader TV Live is not only we trading live, not only we sharing our ideas and our thoughts and our process, but throughout the day, you've got Brendan, you've got Sharif, you've got Adara, who are constantly monitoring news, and Sean and I do it as well, monitoring the news and letting you know what is happening in the markets, because ultimately, you don't want to have to trade blind. I like technicals, I trade off charts as well, but as a day trader, I don't want to be just trading off a level, but against a piece of news that I'm not even aware of. Whether or not you decide to trade in the direction of the news or against it, at least you should know it and know a little bit about the stock in the places that matter. So I hope that helps. Maybe we'll get some flash news in the afternoon and we can get some live examples for you when we come back on at 2 o'clock. But for now, let's head on back over to Sharif and Adara. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate that, Neil. Very insightful and thorough as always in the chat. Really responding well to that. Thank you for the positive comments in the chat there, guys, for Neil's spiel.
I
Neil
like that.
Spiel, yeah.
There should be a Neil Spiel button.
There should be a Neil Spiel and a Randy's Rants. I'm just saying. Yeah, and being frank with Franks is a Chilean nightmare. I like that.
I think Neil put that in our chat yesterday, I think. I want to say it was Neil, and I enjoyed that, yeah.
Being... The Katina man said
I didn't hear
Frank.
that he said it.
We were talking to each other back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. Is his mic on?
My mic's still on. I'm literally
there
holding
he
it.
is.
No, basically, like, Frank was on, and every single time that Frank is on, like we usually make a joke about Frank being Frank, like we'll say it, but he then himself was like, to be frank with you, and I'm like, wow, he's never actually, I don't think he'd ever made that pun, which if my name was Frank, I'd probably say it all the time, and you guys would groan at me. So he said that, and Sean told me, like, yeah, we should have a Frank with Frank thing, and I'm like, okay.
What was Brendo's reaction? That's what I want to know.
Put it on the board, I think. No,
Hey.
Brendan basically just said put it on the board or something like that to Fabian. So being Frank with Frank is now a thing. And who knows? I mean, it's a heck of a lot of fun to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But we love Frank, and he's a fantastic guest. But I have to admit, like, it's one of those like low-hanging fruit puns.
It's still good.
It should have. It's like, man, how are we not doing this like a year ago when Frank came on the first time? But hey, we got it now. Just one thing. Well, you guys have already seen this. The market is starting to give it up a little bit.
It was obvious.
AMD off that 140 is continuing to flush as the market is giving up some early support levels.
All right, guys, cue it. Cue it. Can we? There we go, baby. All right. That is the gentleman, Will Ralston. He is CEO of Single Point Incorporated, which just has now a new listing on CBOE Canada. It goes by SING. That is a ticker. Let's load up that bad boy over here. He will be... It's US, excuse me, not Canada. So it's, I believe, sing.am, Brendo? Yes, sing.am. Here it is on my chart right here, up 2.25% today. He will be on today with Brendo at 2:45, talking a lot about a lot of stuff. Make sure that you check that out today, 2:45 with Brendo on the closing show. SING.am is where this stock trades. Single Point CEO Will Ralston today. Guys, check it out. All right, guys. Let's have a look here at what NVIDIA is doing, because this is the stock that we've been involved in all day. What's up, Katina Man? I saw your hand. Yeah, go.
We're still short.
The Katina Man is still short AAPL 182.70, and now we are knocking on the door of 181.50 on Apple. So hit, yeah, there it is. And he's now $3.50 in the money on that Tesla short at 239.70 or 95 or whatever it was there. That's coming back down now through 237 TSLA. Everything really coming down because we broke that 16.5 on the future, and everything's really coming back down in Mag 7 world. The one that is kind of holding up here, but not really, is this 490 level on NVIDIA, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is also going to give up the ghost. Now, you know how VWAP is a little different on my platform than it is on Pre-Pro 8 based upon what time the data starts populating, but here it is. It's been holding VWAP quite well. It's nice when VWAP and the whole dollar level, especially the $10 level, conflate. There's some confluence between them. We've been getting this sideways action now for about 20 minutes between 491 to the high side and 490 to the low side on NVDA. We haven't put in a newer candle to make a new high on the 5-minute chart, so I'm definitely not interested in taking this one long. You got to get it on the back end, as my friend Neil likes to say, and it's definitely not curling back up yet. I need proof that this bad boy is going to start curling back up, because I've got the 10 pointing down and a bunch of the 20s pointing down now. I'm talking about the EMAs. They're both pointing down. So if this is going to be a micro retracement, then we can wait for this 490 to hold. Otherwise, if it's going to steer a step back down, because guys, we started out the morning today at 477. Right, and then we hit a 495 top. So there's been a lot of notional range today on NVDA, and it just stands to reason that we give a little bit of back. So we'll have to wait and see whether the 490 level holds or not. Packing our patience there. The Katina Man is going to get out at 237 on Tesla. So here's the look on TSLA. It was, tried to break through 240. It couldn't. It got to 240.12 on a wick basis, but as you can see here, all the closing prints today on TSLA south of 240. So that also happened to be, about 50 pennies higher than where the pivot point was. So pivot point acting as a good resistance level as well. And now we are at that S1 level. on TSLA, trying to hold that 236.25. And if you continue to make moves back down, where do we find some support? Well, technically the low on the day today, Katina Man, on Tesla is at 235 level, 234.90. That is the low of the day. That's where we printed at that 940 wick there, the implied balance low on TSLA. So we'll have to wait and see whether this flat bottom here at S1 can kind of give up the ghost and Tesla can continue print to the downside. In case you're wondering what is going on with TSLA today, another 1.6 million cars will have to receive an over-the-air software update in China. It's to do with the same issue that we had in the United States with the auto steer feature, the Chinese regulator insisting that Tesla do the update. So 1.6 million vehicles from all cars created or produced from August 2014 to last month have to be updated with this over-the-air software update. But, you know, when we say recall, I personally, I feel it's a bit of a misnomer because, you know, a traditional recall requires you to go back into the dealership, some sort of physical intervention. That is the beauty of the Tesla model, where it's all done over the air via software. Adara.
Yeah, no, I think I was actually reading a Barron's article, I think when the most recent recall came out, where they were like, we need to change the name because recall doesn't really reflect what's actually happening. So I think Barron's agrees with you there, or at least someone from Barron's. But yeah, I mean, I'm in this NVIDIA trade. I just got out of this NVIDIA. So I got out, it was about 10 cents. Basically what happened was I got filled. I kind of didn't realize I got filled on this and then was like, la-di-da, oh my God, I'm in this NVIDIA position. And so yeah, I got out. Happy with where I got out. I got out around that 490.55, 490.60 area because I was a little bit, you know, a skosh stressed out with what was happening there. We did hold 490 decently. If we keep bouncing off 490, I might keep scalping it. But I like to have my eyes on the prize when I'm scalping, and I do not have my eyes on the prize with NVIDIA. Also, though, Marvell, which has been so far hopefully a marvel, we're basically at where my profit taking, my first profit taking area was, which was that 60.25. I say that because that was where we had that big bounce earlier. And then, you know, I know this was a really strong name on the day, but I was saying to Sharif off camera, I was kind of, or maybe I said this on camera, I was eyeing this break of this 60-70 area. So I did not get top wick, but I like where this is going. Thank you so much, Lone Sophos, for the support in the chat here. But yeah, so I think my main look right now is trying to piece out some of this Marvell. First profit taker probably around here. I'd like to maybe get the rest out of this out at that 59.78. Unfortunately, though, I didn't get to set my peak wetters in this because I got distracted by NVIDIA. So yeah, trying to get out of, you know, out NVIDIA got me distracted from this Marvell. But I like what's happening with Marvell right now. Are you in NVIDIA or out NVIDIA right now?
I'm out of. I'm not doing that.
Okay, that's fair. You don't have to do it. It's okay. It's just
I'm out of NVIDIA at the moment, Adair, but I do like your entry on that. It was a little aggressive. I like how you, you know, you waited for the umpteen. Go ahead, Katina, man. Go ahead. I see you. You know, that bouncing off VWAP and bouncing off that 490 level. I guess I'm being a little bit more, you know, cautious than you because I'm really waiting for it to curl up and to show me a newer high. But I do like the fact that it is bouncing off 490 umpteen amount of times. Whether or not it can make its way back up, an entirely different story. Let's see what the future's doing, because the futures is at yesterday's closing price. So we are awfully close to going red on the day. Now, 16,450, give or take, you know, 4 or 5 points is yesterday's closing price. Technically, I believe it's at 445 or 446. But, you know, 450 is essentially where we're going to chart. And we are at that level right now at 459. So whether or not we stay positive, we'll have to wait and see. But we are below VWAP. We did break that 500-point level, and now we are at yesterday's closing print. I do look at this area as a possible level of support. We'll have to wait and see whether that manifests or not, because the 500-point level didn't hold up, VWAP didn't hold up, and now we have to see if yesterday's closing print can hold up. So questions to be asked here on the futures, because as the futures go, typically as some of these larger cap goes, especially the Mag 7, so we'll have to wait and pack our patience there. But I do like what NVIDIA is doing here at 490 on on the day. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I get back into this one. I don't want to get in quite yet. If this one starts moving back into the 491 and a half area, maybe we'll punch long there. Now, I told Wes that I would look at this particular stock, ELEV.
Ooh. Ooh.
So you know how I filter my scanner to exclude everything sub 85 pennies. So this one just showed up, Wes, on my scanner, and now it is gone again because it is now below 85 pennies, but I already know about it now. So the reason I filter everything below 85 pennies is because typically what I did was I filtered everything below $1. I just didn't want to have that life, right? Trading with 4 decimal spots and whatever, this, that, and the other. But then Neil gave me the idea. He's like, look, you're not going to know if it's approaching $1 until it gets to $1. What you want is you want a bit of a head start to let you know when things are encroaching at that dollar level, because the dollar break level in the past has been a really interesting trade for some of these penny stocks, these small cap gapper stocks. Anyway, so this one showed up, got up to about 87 point, yeah, let's just say 88 pennies, 87 and change, and now we are back at that 80 level again. I'm looking for this possible area here, West, to hold as a level of support. Clearly, this was a resistance point here as we made our way up into about 79, 78 pennies, and then we tanked, only to break it on this, you know, large volume that started coming in. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles, 8 1-minute candles uninterrupted that were green. And if you want to even look at this hammer candle here, you can even consider that green. Could be 10 candles uninterrupted to that 88 penny area. But now we're breaking down, right? We're not holding this level over here, the 79 penny level. We're 78 pennies, so it's not that far away. But I want to see if this general area of resistance can flip to support, and maybe you can get something off this one to the high side. If you're looking at getting in here, my suggestion to you would be to get out through the break of this bottom here at around 71 pennies. It should be holding this particular level. If it doesn't, you know, then it's going to start stair-stepping down to below 70 pennies. ELEV is called Elevation Oncology. It has a float of around 38.5 million shares, so not huge, but not small either. A $33 million market cap. And here is the news item on it, coming in this morning at 9 a.m. Elevation Oncology entering 2024 in a strong financial position with cash into the second half of 2025. That's great. I mean, that's not really a market-moving headline. It does have a good product pipeline, according to this article here. What is this? What is this for? What is this kind of ailment does this treat? It doesn't say. It says some sort of combination strategy. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you guys with it. There is a headline though, but whether or not it's you know, market moving, you'll have to be the decider of that. Oh, there we go. Update from ongoing phase 1 clinical trial of its EO321 expected in mid-2024. It's also got expanding clinical development program and announcing a second pipeline program for another drug of it. So decent headline, nothing to get too excited about. But NVIDIA now is curling back above 491, and we are holding that 16450 area for the moment, which is yesterday's closing print on the NQ. So let's see, go ahead. Yeah, the Katina man has wet all of his beaks now on Tesla. He's out of that position, taking that 236.5 break off that 230, let's call it 240 short that he had there on TSLA. So he's out of that. So anybody following along with the Katina man's trades, wanted to update you on that. I'm going to go ahead and wet my beak here with very small shareage on NVDA. Let's see if we can get a better price than where we are right now, Adair.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to wet my beak in a Tesla long. Because you know what? I was watching Tesla for a while, mostly for a short, but my whole thing is always if we're going one direction and then we make a move towards another direction, I keep my eye on that, right? We've made a higher high after a series of lower highs and lower lows on Tesla. I like that 237 as an entry point. Also, we had some resistance earlier at 237. Resistance becoming support, perhaps? Mayhaps? We'll have to wait and see. My profit taking would probably be probably a little bit at that 237.80 area. Why? Because that was where we had a bit of a bounce earlier here, and then a bounce over here as well. I'm gonna wait. Like I want to wait for another candle of confirmation because this could just be a recovery. I want to wait and see here, but I don't dislike what's happening here right now. LJD, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. OPK nearing that $1 price? Question mark. Yeah, let's take a look. OPCO Health. So this one popping up somehow, some way earlier today. OPCO Health down today. Oh yeah, this is what it was. The news was OPCO Health prices private offering of $200 million convertible senior notes due 2029. What a double top. I'll look at that. I'm gonna like zoom out as well too, because nearing that £1 price or that $1 price, I assume this is going to be the one-day chart. But yeah, so I mean, I love, like, this is a solid bottom here at this 87-cent area, like on the day. Holy cow. We have twice with these wicks up to 89 cents, reject both times. 89 cent, absolutely an area of resistance, 87 cents an area of support. But what do we have on the daily chart? Let's, as Neil says, when in doubt, zoom out. So let's look. Okay. I mean, first thing I'm seeing, like this. First thing I'm seeing is look at the resistance we have at 160. Once, twice. Then we go back up here. We reject twice around this 220 area. Then we go back down. We make a little bit of a recovery around 120. And then we come back, reject at least 3 times here, 3 to 4 times in this 160 area. Then we plummet below 90 cents. I'm not sure that $1, I'm going to maybe be controversial. I'm not sure that $1 is a key area for this, beyond the fact that it's a penny stock. And, $1 area is generally, of course, important. I think, though, the fact that we bounced off this $1 area twice, December 2022, and then again February 2023, I think that's significant. I think there is some support at the $1 if we can get there. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of fallen out from it. Do you know what I mean? I would say the more important areas, this 160 keeps popping up as resistance. I would be very cognizant of 160. And I think if we can hit that dollar area, it looks like there is some decent support at the dollar area. But that would be my analysis on OPK.
We'll start?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, thank you so much for the super chat again.
Yes, thank you very much
LJD.
for that. Yes.
But yeah, so I was going over earlier about my news prep. And what do I do? So I'm going to, sorry, a little bit of a repetition, because we like to make sure that we have, practice makes perfect, and we like to go over the...
Well, people are coming in all the time. That's the
right?
thing,
Yeah,
right? We have to be cognizant of that.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. Cognizant, great word. We use it on this show a lot. I think we both use it a lot.
Yes, we do.
And then we both use it,
We feed off each other's vocab.
We really do. But yeah, so my news prep, like I said, and one kind of caveat I want to say as well is one of the first things that I was kind of told throughout the day, Unity. The first things that I was told kind of throughout the day when I began here, even in the interview process, was that you really need to kind of live and breathe the markets. You know what I mean?
Dang.
So I like to immerse myself always. Also, just a quick shout out to Diamond Realty of Miami. $3.05 super chat. The branding is impeccable. There is a fountain emoji, a bird emoji, hashtag Beakwood and Crew, hashtag 305, hashtag Happy Friday. I mean, if you're in the chat, if you're here with us, you're part of the Beakwood and Crew.
Yeah, and Diamond Realty of Miami is one of the OGs in the chat. He's been in there for a minute. So yeah, thank you again for that. Shout out to 305.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I enjoyed that. But yeah, so yeah, back to the news. So basically what I do is before I go to bed at night, and then early in the morning, in general throughout the day as well, right, when I'm not here, I'm always checking on CNBC so I can just kind of scroll through the headlines. What stocks are getting mentioned? What's kind of any specific sectors? What's Jim Cramer saying? Different kind of get a feel in different ways for how the market is feeling. I said feel too many times there, but that's
all
okay.
Good.
Thank you. And then, yeah, when I wake up as well, I also like to just immediately, I always have CNBC open on my phone some way, somehow, to get the sense of what's happening. And then also, what I do every morning, in general throughout the day as well and on the weekends, but especially in the mornings before I get here, I like to, while I'm doing makeup, I like to watch business and finance podcasts. I do a lot of, the Compound, All In, because then I get kind of the sense, even just while I'm, doing something else, I'm still absorbing how people are feeling in the market. What are the themes happening? The word I used earlier, overtures. What are the, kind of the overtures that is happening within the market?
Yes, ma'am.
So that way I know, even if, sometimes the podcast is recorded earlier in the week, but it still gives you a sense of what kind of, things people are thinking about and things people are feeling. I just like to get kind of a sense of what is occurring before I even get here, so that I already kind of know what to maybe have my eye on. But with that in mind, a caveat there is, as I was saying earlier, is you can't be biased. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be open to whatever the market gives you. But I also still think it's good to kind of know what people are thinking. You know what I mean? Because I still think it's nice to have other a series of opinions peppered in there, so you can kind of form your own opinion. But not when I say opinion, I mean more like what's the news telling you, what's the market telling you. So there we go. So my next part, so I'm just referencing my notes here because I want to make sure I get everything correct. So the first thing I do when I get here, I get my water sometimes and I turn on the lights, and then what I'll do is I go to the computer and I just look up, I'll show you here.
Bang.
SPY, oh, I just wrote SAPI, SPY. I like that. I type in SPY. Also, Sean says good out on Tesla. So congrats on Tesla. So here we are. So basically what I do is I look up SPY and then I kind of see a story. So I mentioned earlier today as well. Also, this is what I love about Benzinga too. If there's an economic number or something important, they'll have it in red. SPY. So today, one of the bigger stories, this morning, something to kind of get a sense of the whole market, right? Is, let's do this one. So there's something, I've got this one here, like what happened when the U.S. was sleeping.
Yep.
There's also something like this, U.S. stocks poised to extend New Year's slump, although that kind of flipped a little bit earlier. And then what else here? New Year's slump as focus shifts to December jobs data. So even from the headline, I can already tell futures are down right now. We have economic data on watch, and so that way I'm keeping that in mind.
Did you talk about your economic data? And because you do the watch list, and part of the watch list, obviously, the first component is not just the summary, it's the economic data. How important is that? How many times have we been sitting on the midday and an auction, a 10-year, a 20-year, whatever, has absolutely flipped the market on its head? Right?
Yeah.
How important are these economic data points? Tell us a little bit about that, Adara.
Yeah, so for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I appreciate that. So what I'll do too is one thing that Neil and everybody here, but Neil and Sharif have kind of made me aware of too, is investing.com. So you can see kind of how many stars a thing has.
Yes.
So that I know how important that economic event may be. So investing.com is really great because you can just kind of like see, oh, this is how many things this has, this is how important this one may be, and so then I can kind of get a sense, because there's so many economic data events happening in a day. How do I know what's going to happen, right? How do I know what's going to matter? So I think that's really important. You can just kind of get a sense of what's going on in the day and be prepared.
Right.
So I appreciate you bringing up the economic events, because that's also a huge
Where
part.
do you get the economic events, Adara?
So I get them sometimes from investing.com. That
Beauty.
gives you a sense. I can pull that up actually.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as people know.
Yeah, it's investing.com. And then Sharif mentions as well the 2 out of 3 bulls. The way I see it has stars. But yeah, I like the bulls because it's like, the ready for the market.
Yeah,
very
exactly.
market for apropos for what we're talking about.
And the bulls is so appropriate. I mean, it could be bulls, it could have been bears, as long as it's some sort of angry animal, I'm good with that.
Sharif just wants angry animals in the market headline for today. But anyway.
It's all good. Go on. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that is really important as well, having the economic events. And I think even beyond the fact that they're the watch list, knowing that they exist and making sure that everybody who's watching and who follows the watch list know they exist is important, because as Sharif says, they can really move the market.
They can.
Today, even the USD, for example, I was talking about this on the Money Talk segment at the Big Desk, but the USD took, had a big swoop to the upside on that 15-minute chart when we initially got that higher than expected non-farm payrolls data. Then we got that weaker ISM manufacturing PMI, and then we fell down a little bit. Also, Neil Roberts asking a question I do not know an answer to.
And I don't either. And I've asked him.
Did you know?
Care to explain, Neil? He doesn't have his mic. He'll write it in the chat, though, and then we'll read it out. Oh, okay. He's going to get his mic. So the question was, I said, I was joking around any sort of angry animal, and he's like, well, do you know why it's a bull and a bear? And I actually don't know why. So he's miking up. He's going to tell us. And I would want to know personally. I don't know why. No, I have no idea.
Oh, some people in the chat saying things that might be.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the common perception, actually what Sean was saying, the common perception, bears because they sleep, bulls because they're raging. But the actual thing is like a bull attacks by bringing the horns up, and a bear attacks by swatting with its claws down.
No, I didn't, Ram.
So that's the actual reason. Now, obviously, logically speaking, you can come with a million obvious reasons why it's a bull and a bear, but the actual one it's a little bit surprising, because the hibernation thing makes a lot of sense, but it has more to do with the fact that claws down, and then you tack with the horns to the upside. It's kind of a weird quirk that
I like it.
Who cares? Right now,
I care.
I like that.
Right now the Bears are sort of losing. Oh, comp, you care. you will long on MU at 83 or short. I'm actually looking at that level in both ways. To be honest with you, like I'm short in front of it, but if it breaks out and there's buyers over 83, I'll probably flip to the long because we actually forgot about Micron as a continuation play. It had some strength, and it's into a flat market. It's at the high of the day right now, even as the market pulls back. So yeah, for a scalp short now, but if it's breaking out in the afternoon, I'm not fighting it if it gets to like above 83.10 or so.
Neil, yeah, I mean, some people have a different thing. And Brother Mike, the Bulls plow forward, the Bears claw back. Okay. I mean, I can see both. The Katina man was telling me the Bears fall asleep. They hibernate. Okay. I like it. I like the symbolism there. We like symbolism on the show, don't we?
We love symbolism in the show.
Okay.
If it involves words, we like it on the show.
Chicago Bears suck. Who's saying that? Well, they do. I'm sorry to anybody from Chicago, but the Bears haven't been good in years, man. I mean, since they had Brian Urlacher, I mean, really? I haven't done anything. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Dara, continue.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that was an interesting. I guess it's neither here nor there.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting interlude. So I really I keep saying interlude and overture today. Keep keeping musical terms out there, but I thought that was really interesting. So I will return to my notes here. So once I get there and I look everything up, I like to get a sense of how the market's feeling, right? Like what are we doing? What is as Sharif said, is there any economic data I need to keep an eye on? Are there any individual stocks that are making outsized movements, just even in this article that are being mentioned, right? Top movers. What's the SPY doing? What are yields doing? And I feel like having one article just to quickly read to get a sense of that, that's usually what forms the basis of the market summary section of the watch list, if you see the watch list. So I think that's kind of cool as well. Also, the next thing I do is I look up the Mag 7. And I really appreciate you asking me about that earlier because I think it helped me kind of clarify why I do that. I like looking at the Mag 7 for two reasons. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the main two reasons.
Yes.
A, they move the market like mad because they do make up a large percentage of some of these indices, you know what I mean? So the SPY, the NASDAQ, because they are these big 7 strong stocks, it's nice to know what they do because if you see how they're moving, you can maybe understand, oh, maybe this is why we're up because Tesla, Nvidia, et cetera, are to the upside, right? Or maybe why we're to the downside. To use an example, Apple. An apple a day apparently was keeping the bulls away the last couple of days, at least on Apple, because we did have that downgrade on Tuesday. So why I specifically bring up this downgrade? Apple was down about 3.6% on Tuesday. You know what else was down on Tuesday? The market. And I'm not saying that's necessarily just because of Apple, but I'm saying because Apple makes a proportion of the SPY, I think there can be a little bit of a correlation there, right? So I think it's good to know and to be cognizant of that. Now the second reason is a lot of people have eyes on these mega cap stocks, right? So a news story like Tesla and the recall, for example, today, which might not seem like a market moving event, I think it's still really important to be aware of and be cognizant of and keep an eye on, because you don't know, like it could end up moving more later, do you know what I mean? Or because everybody's looking at it, you're kind of looking for catalysts. That's how a lot of these stocks, like again, Apple and the Barclays downgrade, for example, I forget what analyst it was, but I believe it was in November. Tesla had a price target, I think, price target lowered to around 150. And so this moved, we got to 150, or the price target got to 150, Tesla didn't get to 150, and we had a giant move down on Tesla. And it wasn't even a downgrade, I believe, it was just a price target decrease. So I think what's interesting is how we can have like all of this movement on these Mag 7s that you might not get with some of the other stocks. You know what I mean? Because everybody's looking at them, everybody cares. There are stocks that tend to move the market. So I think one of the things I like to do right in the morning is, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, put them all in, get a sense of the stories, and then if they're moving in response to that, or even if they have a little bit less movement, I know they might be more susceptible to move, both themselves or the market. So I just keep an eye on this. So that is what I do with the Mag 7. Then what I do is I go check my headlines again. I check Reuters, I check CNBC, and I go through Benzinga. See, I'm scrolling here. I'll go zoom out. And what's great about Benzinga is, there's an Eli Lilly story. Let's ignore that for now, Adara. But see, I wouldn't know that if we didn't have Benzinga.
What do we got?
Oh, okay.
Is it a new one or is it?
It's just I think maybe like a summary.
Okay.
Weight loss drug boom. Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, we
already know about that.
Yeah, I'll look at Lilly later. But the point I'm trying to make is like, there we go. Now I know because it's popped up here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Nvidia's analyst top sector pick. Oh, which analyst is this? Nvidia, BofA Securities, maintaining a buy in Nvidia with a price target of 700.
Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like you kind of scroll down Benzinga is constantly updating. You constantly get a sense of what stocks are moving and shaking. Yeah.
So do you have any tips? Well, here, my question to you earlier was, you're becoming quite adept at doing the watch list.
Thank you.
And by becoming adept, you start knowing what are market moving headlines and what's kind of a nothing burger.
Okay.
Right? And that is because you have experience doing it every day, repetition, repetition, repetition.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for people out there to say to them, you know, look out for this might be important, or look out for that? When you're looking at a news catalyst, like what would be example of a nothing burger to you, and what would be example of something that, hey, I should probably be aware of this? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. And if you don't have a response right away, you can. I think it's fair for you to think about that, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
No, I have sort of a response, and the response is something that Brendan's told me. That's something that I'm still trying to really ingrain with me, because I think it's really important. The market will tell you if something's important, and I think that's really key. And like, I think learning that has been super important. So I really appreciate that, that, you know, Brendan said that. I think everybody said that, but I think really like hearing that constantly, like I'll be like, oh, is this story relevant? And Brendan's like, well, what is the market telling you? Is there volume?
I love how Brendan puts like the ball back in your court and he makes you think, right?
Yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Like I think I've learned a lot through that. So
Right.
And I think also too, I've learned, like I said earlier, through being around everybody here, the traders in the back as well, like getting to talk stocks with those guys is really key too. Everyone, you know.
There he is.
Oh, there's
Have you seen that one before?
Oh yeah, is that the Dada one?
The Dada one, and there's a goat one, but I don't think he likes that one, so I'm not gonna hit it. Yeah. No, Ram. Ram Ram's such a disturber. Uh-oh. What's that, Ram? No, she doesn't know. Okay. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. But yeah, so I think that to me has been really key, and that's something I'm keeping in mind. So when I say the market, or I guess when Brendan says the market will tell you if it's important, by that it means, is there moving?
Yes.
Is it volume? Is there volume to the move? So you know what I mean? Are there people with their eyes on it? As I mentioned, in social media sometimes you can take, because as I mentioned earlier, Twitter is not always great for news sources, because you always want to triple check, because anyone can type anything behind a keyboard, right?
Exactly.
But it can give you a sense of, are people, do they have eyes on the stock?
Yes.
If you see a whole bunch of mentions in the last couple seconds for a stock, especially the small caps, the meme type stocks, I'm sure Key West was blowing up on Twitter yesterday. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a really key point, and I think it's really key to keep an eye on. And
you and I were discussing off camera before we came on the show the utility of Twitter, but the fact that we had to be extremely careful when we took anything off Twitter, because it's such an unvetted, unregulated, you know, environment.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to use it today, but we do have a Twitter feed of accounts that we like and that we follow. But one thing that Brendo pushed on me and pushed on you in the beginning was, I'd rather be right than first. And Twitter, oftentimes, the goal is to be first, to sensationalize and to be the first to break the news. That's not how we do things on Trader TV. So we like Twitter, but what would your suggestion be to those to the viewers who want to utilize Twitter? How would they go about utilizing it?
Thank you so much. So I love that question, and I think
I say Twitter, I meant X, obviously. You know what I mean, right?
Well, X marks the spot.
Okay.
And you know what happens when I see a headline on X, what I do. And for example, one of them actually was, I was at the big desk and I saw a headline about Eli Lilly, but there was no link, there was no context, didn't say who was reporting it.
Bang.
All I saw, and Eli Lilly was reacting a little bit, but all I saw was, it was that, you know, that news story from, I guess, December now, about how there was a study saying Eli Lilly's weight loss drug wasn't maybe effective for long-term weight loss, right? So the context of that story ended up, you know, changing a little bit, but all I saw was this headline, out of context, didn't say who it was from. So I checked the stock, it was moving a little bit, but I didn't want to report this without anything else, right? So I waited, then I did another segment, I come back, and then Benzinga has the headline, and it has a source. And now I'm like, I can get going on this, you know what I mean?
So it helped you kind of in the right direction, but you didn't use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
It made me cognizant of the fact that this story could be a game changer, could be a mover, but I didn't want to say anything until I had proof. Do you know what I mean? Because again, this goes back to, I'd rather be right than first. So I wasn't first on that, of course, but that doesn't matter, because I made sure that I was correct. I had that Benzinga story, and then that's when I said, hey, can you come to me? And that's when I bring it, you know, bring it to the table, because I don't want to bring a story that I'm not sure about. And that's also why I think making sure, even like the wording that I, you know, try to do in the watch list, and then also in when you're reading news stories, making sure that you know who reported this. Make sure you check your sources. If they're saying, if it's just, oh, it's been reported, it's not confirmed, you know, make sure that you're aware of that, right? Because also, I think one key thing too, buying the rumor and selling the news.
Yes.
Sometimes the stock will react differently to a rumor
Oh,
or
yeah.
reports or, oh, sources have said, than how the actual news comes out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
they
I
put
mean?
whatever
So I
they
think-
want, really.
Exactly.
I mean, who's going to stop them?
Exactly. So I think it's good to have a sense of it and just be aware of what's the quality of this news source. And that's why I think X is great for getting a sense of headlines, but not for the headlines themselves. Just give you a sense of what stocks to keep an eye on.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, let's take a look at NVIDIA, because we got back into this bad boy because number one, it held 490, and number two, it held VWAP. So those were the two things that I was looking for personally to tell me, Sharif, there's another trade to be had here on NVIDIA. And now we got one more out on this one. We took like a fraction of the shares that we initially took. And now we are knocking on the door of that 492.5 again. Let's see if we can make it back into 495 world. That was where we obviously rejected earlier. Technically, we did get a print above 495. It was a 495.47 print, but as quickly as we got above 49 was as quickly as we retraced back down, making our way back down, you guessed it, to 490, holding that whole dollar, $10 level. But it was beautiful because VWAP conflated with that level. There was confluence. Shout out to the Kenobi. Where is he at? He's not there. Oh, he's talking up a storm over there at the bridge. Yeah, so we got back in this one. It's curling back up, but I got to tell you, I'm a little suspicious of this trade, and the reason is the future. The future seems to be awfully weak. We are technically positive on the NQ, up 0.12, but we just broke down again below VWAP. We are below 16.5. The only kind of saving grace, I would say, on the future right now is we are above yesterday's close, right? And you know, I always chart the closing prints. Here it is. It's 16.448 or 446. The level that I'm using is 16.450, okay? Because it's a 50-point level. We are above it. We held it at 12.25 and 12.30 when we came back to it and we started printing up again. We didn't quite make it up. They are back into 16.5, but we're kind of like in no man's land here, above yesterday's closing print, but below the 500-point level. Very consolidative, kind of a sideways move from 12 o'clock onwards. So we've been doing this sideways dance for the better part of an hour. And the reason I care about all this, well, because, you know, the futures have a way of, you know, moving these Mag 7 names. And NVIDIA, definitely part of the Mag 7 world, coming back now into 492 again. And I'm not surprised that NVIDIA is going to start curling back down here because the future looks weak. Personally, to me, it looks weak at this particular moment in time. And when you're looking at some of the other Mag 7 names, let's take the Microsofts or the Apples or the Amazons here, they're all looking weak too. Their moving averages are pointing down. The price action is making lower highs and lower lows. So although NVIDIA could march to the beat of its own drum, it's more likely to not do that than it is likely to do that. So I have to be cognizant of that and, you know, not want to overstay my welcome for that long. So if this, initially, when I got into this trade at 491.27, I said to myself, you're going to risk $1.27. If it breaks 490, you're out. But now I'm saying if it comes back into my entry, that's the end of that, because I needed to see it to start stair-stepping back up. And if it's not going to stair-step back up because the future is holding it down, well, then I want no part of this trade, okay? So I see softies tanking here, Apple's coming back down again. Yeah, this is not a good look for the futures. Here come the future again into the closing print, 16.450. Here we go. It looks like we're about to go negative on the day on the future unless we find some support at yesterday's closing print. And we're exactly at that point right now. It has been lower highs and lower lows ever since we broke that 16.550 area when we went to 577. That was the best we could do at the day. Breaking through the teal. The teal is resistance level 1 for my pivot points. We broke through it and then we gave up the ghost. We're coming right back down. NVIDIA comes back down to my entry. I'm ending the trade.
Yeah, it's certainly, yeah, NVIDIA definitely a member of the.
And there it is, ending the trade
Oh,
there. Yeah,
yeah.
well, it came back into my entry, so
That's fair.
trade's over.
Yeah, no, NVIDIA is definitely a member of the mega cap family, so it will react a little bit more to what the future does, right? I do want to address a couple questions here I'm seeing in the chat. Also, thank you so much to Ed Nuts in the chat. Sharif Adara, your vocab is ace. Please keep stretching those muscles. Adara has used skosh and scintilla in the past few days. How about submission, dash, pinch, or dribble? Yeah, I mean, so many great words, and thank you so much for that comment. I like words. I think Sharif and I both are fans of the big verbose words. Verbosity. I talk a lot too, so I mean, if I can add more words to that and switch it up a little bit, I will. So I do appreciate that comment. Reliable Rudy also asking, sorry, this a little while ago, just scrolling through here. Can you explain how you use certain new information to your benefit? I'm going to say that. I'm guessing that means news information. How I would interpret that is I guess to my benefit, I mean like just having the knowledge of it. Do you know what I mean? To be cognizant of it. And when I say that, I mean if I like, for example, if I see a story from earlier and it's not moving the stock right away, if the stock ends up moving later, then I can be like, oh, maybe that's why that moved. Do you know what I mean? Or, for example, to kind of do the inverse as well, I would say it helps contextualize moves too. If a move happens, then you get the news later. So Carnival, I used the example earlier, I'll bring it up again. Very much to the upside today. I was in the desk, I saw it moving on Trade Ideas, shout out so much to Trade Ideas. I saw it moving on Trade Ideas, and I was like, what's this thing moving? I checked NZinga, couldn't find anything right away. I checked everywhere, didn't know what was going on. Then, after I get back to the desk, after the watch list has been sent to cyberspace, then I see Wells Fargo upgraded it. Do you know what I mean? So I think sometimes it's hard to tell if it's like the cart before the horse before the cart. Either way, I would say if you know there's a move and then you hear the news, then you have some context for that. If you see the news and then you see the move, I think you have that contextualized as well. But again, it's always like great to make sure that the news is what you think it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, it's better to be right than first. I think that's a big example for that as well, to make sure that you know what the story is, why the thing is moving. And again, there might not always be a reason to, right? One of the biggest things I've learned as well is that if there's multiple catalysts, it's like, well, how do I know which catalyst is moving the market? Just, consider all of them. Be apprised of all, shout out to a word Sharif used there, apprised. Be aware of all of the potential reasons that the stock could be moving, so then you have all the context, so that you know. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really important, and so I think that is one thing that I found really important is just, and I'm still trying to get a hang of, is don't assume that you know why the market's moving. The market will tell you what to think. The market will tell you how it reacts to a piece of news, and with that in mind, also it's all you have to react to is what the market's doing. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just really important to be aware and then respond accordingly. Also, I guess to answer the rest of Sharif's question there with regards to how can I tell if a catalyst is valid or not? I did sort of answer that with regards to the market will tell you, but I think more specifically, upgrades and downgrades can be really key, but they're not always going to move the stock, right? But sometimes the stock can react a little bit after. If it doesn't react in the pre-market, maybe it'll react later. So I think it's always good to be cognizant of upgrades and downgrades. To use a word that we use so much here.
I love it. Well, I steal your words too, so it's all good.
Right? Yeah, I think we both really use it. But so I think that's really important. Do you know what I mean? I think the upgrades, downgrades, usually always a good catalyst. Then in terms of more negative catalysts, anything involving, for example, that Rivian, I think from October, with anything with stock related, stock offerings, green note offerings, convertible note offerings, those can move a stock like mad. So keep an eye, if it involves a stock offering, a note offering, keep an eye on those. Or if it's a massive, a big, I guess, stock person that we care about, for example, Warren Buffett, and Miss Kathy Wood, you know what I mean? Anybody like that selling or buying shares, that can also sometimes be important to keep an eye on. So I think it really, you get a sense, but also not every stock will react to news in the same way. A lot of the news that the small caps react to is news that a mega cap wouldn't necessarily react to in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like some of this is like, considering a letter of intent for a company, and then it goes up 100%. So I think it's really important to be aware of the fact that different kinds of stocks react different way to different things. A big lesson for me yesterday was Ford. I had Ford on the watch list with regards to price increases for their trucks.
Okay.
And then afterwards, I kind of realized, I was talking to Brendan about it, and Brendan was like, well, that's something that might move Tesla a little bit more because everybody has eyes on Tesla, right?
Right.
We're not going to necessarily see the same reactions for that type of news for something like Ford, which has less eyes on it, which is a little bit less voluminous, or I guess has less volume than what we have with something like Tesla.
Right.
So I think that was really important. So I think it's also important to keep in mind when you see the news, what stock are you looking at too? Because different stocks will react differently to different kinds of news. Something like a mega cap or a small cap will be a lot more sensitive to a catalyst. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, another interesting question from Simon in the chat. Hey, do you guys use Bookmap? So I personally have never used Bookmap, but there's been several traders over the past little while that have used Bookmap on the floor. And essentially what Bookmap is, it's a visualization of level 2. So what you would be able to discern by reading the level 2, it kind of takes for you and makes it into like a visual representation of that. And you can see where the big size is sitting, where the limit, basically what kind of orders are where, at what price levels, etc. It's not one that I have a lot of experience using. There was a trader here by the name of Cal, another one by the name of Jacob, who were using this often. And I think they used it for months and months and got quite good at it, but I don't personally use it. But again, it could help you if you are, more into tape reading than chart reading, because again, like I said, it's kind of a visual representation of level 2. At least that was my understanding of it. Each kind of dot represents something different, with lines representing different things, and the size of the circles or the balls or whatever they are also representative of different things. So if you're interested, go and have a look at it. We're not sponsored by them. I just told Kat, I'm like, have you reached out to them? So like, maybe, and who knows? Maybe we get a sponsorship now that we've mentioned them. So just wanted to point that out. Sorry, Simon, we don't. But yeah, it's a tool that traders on the floor here have used in the past. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Safacity, I think that's how you say it. I love Bookmap. It's perfect for price action scalper, he says, or she says. That's pretty cool. Okay. That's kind of, the gist of what I was told about it as well. Gunt bag. That's a hell of a name. Adara, Sharif, both of you have been fantastic for my trading. Great work here each day to learn. Also, I have learned today my son is a buoy.
I like that.
You just had to throw that in there. I like it. Okay, well, look, we're going to say it the way North Americans say it, but all my Brits, you continue to do you and say it the way you guys want to say it. It's just like, it's the same thing. It's Z and Z all over again, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys know that we spell a lot of words with you as well? Like we have the British spelling for a lot of these words, but the British use, like when they write realize, they write it I-S-E. We take the American version, we write Z-E, right?
Yeah.
Or Z-E or whatever. Whereas favor is F-A-V-O-U-R, not O-R, right?
Yep.
That in the Canadian spelling. So we have like a mix of both, I've noticed.
We do.
A little bit of British, a little bit American, we're somewhere in between. Even our system of government is a little bit of a hybrid between American systems and British parliamentary sovereignty is what they call it there. So
yeah, very neat indeed. Yeah.
Can you say aluminum, please? Kyle, what are you trying to make me do, man? Come on. Big Kyle Burdett, hope you're printing today, my man, because, well, we've had a bit of a move down in the afternoon. What's going on there, Ram? Hope you're printing. Hope you're doing well today, Kyle. Mr. Long Shorts, do you have a look on M2K Triple Touch looks weak? Let's pull up M2K. Let's bring in the trusty side chart over here, and we'll pull up this bad boy, M2, what? M2, what the hell is M2K?
Also, Kyle's saying he has a long and a short working.
Okay.
Nice. Congrats to you.
Can you tell me what that is, Kyle? Is it Middle America? What do you look at? What's M2K? What's the name of the stock itself? Because I see here Mid America Departments on the NYSE. Is this it? I have no idea. Micro Russell Futures. Oh, okay. Well, that's not for me. The Russ is RUT for me, guys. Okay. I'll have a look at the, here we go. Micro E-mini Russell 2000 Futures contract. There we go. All right. I guess that's what it is. M2K is the RTY. Thank you. Yeah, I use RTY. That's my ticker. All right. The Russell, critical area of support and resistance. I love this type of look. on charts. Let me put in the Russ. Okay, look, this was clearly a resistance level when we gapped down, let's say, on the jobs number, right? Look where we were. This was a level that we were holding out. We tanked, and now we're coming right back down. So resistance now flipping to support because we're holding that 1965 level. And what I love about this chart is that, number one, resistance flipped to support, but the support level that we're now holding at this 1965 also happens to be VWAP. So those two levels coming into question, which is great. Now, however, do we get that flat bottom break? Because we're putting in lower high, lower high, lower high, all the while holding that same level to the downside at 1965. So this could be one of those ones where we really start getting going here to the downside if this 1965 level breaks down. So what I would say is keep a close eye at former resistance, now support. If it breaks down, then you may want to be interested in this short. However, if we break above this 1975 level, we could make a nice move back up, at least into our level R1 here on the Russ. We'll have to wait and see what we get on this, but a good look nonetheless. Let me pull up the RTY, see it's the same look. Yeah, no difference between the Russell Mini and the Micro Mini, so same look there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think, yeah, just excited to just chat with Kyle Burdett here in the chat, who had, said new year, going to try some longs, so congrats to him.
Big Kyle Burdett?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
No way, Kyle, you're going to start going long?
He said I had a long ES this morning, then switched to short. New year, new me, going long. So just chatting back and forth in the chat. Best of luck to everybody in the chat, and best of luck, Kyle, with the longs. Yeah, I think, it's good to know what kind of trader you are at heart, but also, if you want to diversify, I think that's really important too. Like we were talking about, types of times of day being better for different traders. And Sean and Neil are so good at the opens, and we're both more kind of midday people. I like midday for the ranges too. You know what I mean? As someone who's a massive range trader, I don't really necessarily have as many intraday ranges to play with with the pre-market action, right? So you can use past days range, but I really like intraday ranges. Again, I'm still in the sim and learning, but that is what I really like to use for that. Yeah, also in terms of other, I guess, notes, to go back to the lesson for just a little bit here, I think, like I said, one thing, it's really important to know the distinction between reports and confirmed news, because one is the rumor, the other is news, and I think why this matters is because the whole buy the rumor, sell the news. You know what I mean? Things might trade differently depending on the veracity and the finality of the story. How confirmed is this story? So I think that's really important here as well. Also, Michael Storm saying, not sure if I saw this, yeah, sorry, I did not see this, but it was a huge help for me in all kinds of situations to set up the magnifier with hotkeys in my Elgato Stream Deck for reading. Yeah, maybe I'll just set that up, because I know I feel like I'm squinting a lot, which is maybe, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have to do that too sometimes.
Yeah, it's because contact lenses, right? It's a whole moment. But yeah, thank you so much for that tip. I appreciate that. If anyone has any types of resources they like to use, or any tips they have, I really appreciate that. I think that's really important here as well. Let me see.
Yeah, we should probably show the trade ideas now too, right?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about scanners and watch lists for trade ideas when Michael Moss was on. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, even on Monday as well, because I was showing you the gap scanner on the watch list. But the beautiful thing about this trade idea software is that you can interlink all these windows, meaning that if I click on any name, whether on the watch list, which is all on the left side, or the scanner, which is the green part in the middle over here, see if I click VTEX, what ends up happening is my news blotter on the bottom there populates as well. It'll update to reflect any of the news entries for VTEX. And so I can always find out why a particular stock is moving either up or down, whether on my watch list or on a scanner, with trade ideas, right? And they link to other sites as well, and they're all free sites. So for example, I just clicked this Dynamo Intercos, it's in Italian, I can't even read it. No, thank you. And it'll pop up a news article from Market Beat. Market Beat, as if you know, if you trade a lot and you do your research, it's a free site. I use it sometimes for upgrades and downgrades in the morning if my platform doesn't have the stuff that I need. So Yeah, this is, it's also a great utility to use, whether for your watch list items or your scanning items. And by the way, I know I'm a little digressing right now, but the scanner, when we talked about scanners on Monday, Trade Ideas has a whole bunch of scanners, different types, already pre-programmed for you to use. All you need to load up is a scanner screen, then you get a little bit of a drop-down menu here. And look, I could have percentage gainers up on the day, percentage losers. That's the most that's down in 5 minutes, or the down in 50 minutes, or the most down in an hour. Likewise, for my gainers, I can do the exact same thing, so I can see what's moving in the moment, not what was moving this morning, right? Because that may not be relevant to me anymore. I want to know what's popping off now, right? I'm like a more of, you know, what have you done for me lately kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Right? I can take, I can scan by ranges. Look at this, range bound above the upper daily Bollinger Band, range bound to below the daily Bollinger Band. So if you're a range trader, like Adara just finished, saying she was, right? You look for something hugging the high end of the Bollinger Band and you wait for that mean reversion trade back into the moving average or back into the lower Bollinger Band. Whatever your setup is, they've got something for you here on Trade Idea software. So make sure to give that a check, and you can use the Trader TV 20 to get 20% off Adara.
Indeed, you can. Yeah, also, Michael Storm asking me in the chat, can you show up more on how you set up your Benzinga layout?
Go.
Yeah, so it really depends. I think, too, I can show you a couple different ways I have it, because I don't always have it the same way every time. It really depends kind of on what I'm looking on. But in the morning, usually what I'll do is I'll have, so yeah, I'll have it kind of like this, actually. So I'll have the, let me get my chart set up here. So I'll have, and I usually have them side by side, which is just a me being picky thing. But so I have the chart on one side. Oh, now it's not showing. But I'll have the chart yeah, here we go. Oh, there we go, here's my chart. So I'll have we'll have like right next to each other the chart, and there we go. I love that you can just move things around. Got my chart on the right side, have my news on the left side. I like to keep the SPY up so I can see how that's moving. And there's different time frames you can use on the SPY as well. So let's say like you want 5 minutes on the SPY. Usually for pre-market, I like the daily on the SPY. But yes, then I'll have, right next to me, I'll have all the news stories going. This is usually how I have it. If I'm just at the desk doing the midday, I might not have the charts up because I have my charts on my Pro 8. You know what I mean? I think having the different kinds of setups and being open to having different kinds of setups and knowing what kind of setups you want is really important. And I think it's the same, too, as what Sharif, we were talking about with Sharif yesterday, and all of your watch list, which I really appreciate you going over.
Oh, yeah.
What Sharif's watch list setup is going to be different than anybody else's, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's going to have their own setup. Everyone has different things they're looking for or that they care about. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well. For me, like I said, pre-market, I'm a little bit pickier when it comes to, like, I like my chart on the side, and then I like my news on the other side. But usually, if I'm just here at the big desk, I'll just have it above with just the news. I'm just going to refresh this. Keep saying 2 news, or there we go. Benzinga had to reload. There you are. But yes, so I think that's kind of my take on that here. But I think it really depends on the type of person you are, the type of news that you want. Also, you know, you can have movers up there as well. I should start having this too, with the movers on one side as well, and then also my chart. But yeah, I think it really depends on what's happening here. John Harper also telling me, I'm going to digress for a moment, you missed that Marvell trade. I did, but I did have I had a baby Marvell trade earlier, so we'll talk about this for a moment. I got this short off the around 60.50. I wanted to initially get it here when we rejected off the 60.70. Unfortunately, I missed the top wick there, but I also like this level because look, we rejected off this twice, the 60.50, so I didn't think this was a bad level either. Did get in. My plan was if we broke above the 60.65 decisively, I was going to be out. We did not. So I got out here. Then I was trying to get some profit takers off the 60.25, 60.15 area because why? This is where we picked up a little bit earlier. Also where we had a little bit of consolidation, chop and churn right at the beginning of the day. And these aren't even pre-market levels. Pre-market levels can be helpful as well, but these are both like during the day. They're intraday, so I think these levels could be pretty key. That's why I liked them. I ended up getting part of my profit. The rest of my plan for profit taking was going to be this area we haven't even reached yet, which is that 50.80, because that's another area we picked back up on. But alas, we did not get there. I scalpulate, so if I notice we're having resistance at certain levels, I like to get out before it's too late.
Yeah.
That is what I ended up doing here. We scalpulated So that was kind of what my take was on the Marvell chart. But you are right, it did miss the rest of that short. But I did want to, I didn't really talk much about this trade, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, we don't
take a moment to
typically trade
discuss
Marvell all that much.
I saw the movement to the upside. I was planning on doing this to the upside, but then we had that double top rejection, and I said, nuh-uh.
Remember we did talk about Marvell yesterday? I was like mentioning it. That was
about
not
when it was moving.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't a stock we typically trade on here, and then it ends up being a great stock to trade today. So.
Yeah, right. It ended up being a big move, and I was thinking to go this long, but it was 50 cents. Said go ahead, switch to style.
Why not?
And if they hate, then let them hate, and watch the money pile up. So
I love it. Adara, I want to talk about this NVIDIA trade here.
Please do.
We were in too long sitting on NVIDIA. Here it comes though, down again. Zion Lala was asking me what I thought about NVIDIA at 490, and here we go again at this particular level. 490 and VWAP conflate today with respect to where their price is. They're both showing the same price level right now. I personally, I don't like the long on NVIDIA right now. I wouldn't be inclined to take it long here off VWAP like I did last time around and curled it. We're curled back up to 492.5. Now I'm looking for a flat bottom break, okay? Whether or not a flat bottom break manifests or we get yet another bounce here off VWAP, entirely different story. You're not going to see me anticipate the move here. You're going to see me participate in whatever move happens. But I'm looking for a possible move below this 490 area. And the reason I'm even thinking short when NVIDIA is up over 2% is because we put in a couple of lower highs now with no lower low. So looking for a break of this bottom over here. Whether or not we get an entirely different story. Let's let the price action develop and come to fruition, then we'll make a decision then. But this 490 level, awfully important on NVIDIA. It's been important going back for an hour and a half now. It keeps bouncing off this particular level. Strong day for NVIDIA, should be said. Good report coming out of the Bank of America analysts saying that NVIDIA possibly could be generating about $100 billion in free cash flow over the next 2 years, given the AI tailwind that it has at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see whether that actually happens or not. But for the moment, NVIDIA does seem to be holding that 490 area. My feeling is if we get above this this crest at 492.5 that we topped out last time, this might be an interesting long, because then you'll have the break of the downward channel, which was creating lower highs and a flat bottom. That'll be the end of that pattern, especially if we break above 492.5, 493, anywhere around that, the break of that crest, this peak over here. That will change my opinion on how I feel about NVDA. But like I said here to somebody else who's asking me about the future in the chat, I personally don't like the long here on the future. I mean, what's our, we're marginally green, 0.08%. We just broke below yesterday's close, let's say 16,450. We got down into 16,4 1/3. We're bouncing back now above 450, but we still have that downtrend intact. Lower highs, lower lows. Every single peak has been followed by a lower peak, whether from a trough perspective or a crest perspective. So I want nothing to do with the long on this trade. In fact, if I was forced to trade, I'd be looking to short the pops right now on the NQ, but I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying we are at an interesting level here, the 16,450, and we are putting in lower highs and lower lows. There's no question about that. We'll see if we can kind of maintain some greenery today on the future, or we're going to end up red. You have the ES and the NQ almost, basically the same here. 0.01% in the green for the ES, 0.06% in the green for the NQ. So there's really not much difference on the futures contracts today. Both of them in flatland. And
like flatland.
Yeah, flatland. There was an episode on the Big Bang Theory. Raj wanted to go out. Sheldon, being the homebody that he is,
you love that
didn't want to go. I love him, right? He's nuts. He didn't want to go out. So he's like, Raj's like, I'm young, I'm a virile young man, I want to go out and strut my stuff. And he's like, Sheldon's like, look, when I find myself in a rut, I like to go to a place called Flatland, right? And like he started like talking about like how it was only 2-dimensional. You couldn't see any 3-dimensional. So he's like, yeah, is that you, Raj? I don't recognize your edge, because it's like, get it?
Oh,
Flatland.
that's so funny.
Yeah, anyway, it was like, yeah. Anyway, that's the only reason I'm talking about that right now. It reminded me of Flatland. Yeah, James Del Wallowitz was my favorite. Yeah, I think Howard is one of my favorites as well on that. He has this kind of humor that I really like. But that's neither here nor there. Starvin' Like, Sharif, Pampe. This is your cue to get into a long on what, my man? On NVIDIA. Okay, so NVIDIA's pumping here. Okay, so NVDA did hold 490 again for the umpteenth time. But like I just finished saying, unless this breaks at 492.5 through 493, we still are in that lower high flat bottom range. So I do get what you're saying, but I'm not going to be interested in an NVIDIA long until we clear and close above 492.5 Adara. Dilawar, Sharif, I need your Meta review. Yes, sir. So Meta is doing interesting things here. It's putting in lower highs, very similar to NVIDIA. I want to show you this chart on Meta real quick, and then I'm going to show you the chart on NVIDIA. So here's the break through 350, 350. That's the peak. Then we have a lower high over here, and we're holding at this 351 area, which happens to be VWAP. How similar is that chart to this NVIDIA chart? We have the peak through 495, and then the second peak over here, and we're holding 490. We're at VWAP. So NVIDIA and Meta have awfully similar charts at the moment. And I'm going to say the same thing that I said for NVIDIA, I'm going to say for Meta. Unless we break above 352 on a closing basis and we break this lower high trend that we're in with a flat bottom, I'm not interested in a long on Meta. We got to get above here. Otherwise, you know, you could take it from here. I mean, like you could take it at 351 because it's holding VWAP, it's holding the whole dollar level, and you could have a tight stop, let's say just a smidge below 351. 350 and 2/3, 350 and 3/4, whatever your risk parameters are going to be. You could take it off here, and it could end up double bottoming. And this could be an excellent support level. I'm not saying you're wrong on that. I'm just saying, with respect to myself, having already traded NVIDIA a couple times today, I'm going to definitely want confirmation that the trend is changing Adair.
Yeah, so I was in a Meta position. It's funny, my stop was planned basically where you said. I think you said 350 and a third. I was thinking around like 350, 75, just because I was kind of like looking at the levels we stopped at earlier. So same kind of idea.
Yeah, same thing, really.
But yeah, I did get out. Clearly I could have stayed. My initial plan for a profit taker was maybe somewhere around this 350, 170 area. We've just eclipsed that. But I ended up getting out at the 350, 130. I'm just going to zoom in so we can see here. That was where we had a little bit of strength. Oh,
the market's pumping. Everything's pumping. Go ahead. I just want to let you know.
You know, sorry, yeah. So that was my little baby Meta trade there. Thank you for support there, Bears versus Bulls and people in the chat. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, like Meta is one of my favorites to range trade for the mega caps. I think I was saying this yesterday because when Meta gets in a range, it gets in a range. I mean, every stock is going to move differently every day. I have to say, like, I can't be like, oh, it's always going to be this perfect range trading stock, but I find Meta to be very rangy. If it gets in an upward channel or a downward channel, it ends up kind of working out okay. So I think that's kind of an interesting point to make out. Also, this 350, 170 area, I was kind of interested in that because that's where we had a little bit of consolidation earlier. Looks like we might be having trouble getting here again. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I might range this guy again and then just take more profit. But yeah, teeny tiny. I got in at 351 because I noticed we were kind of holding it okay. Tiny position. Yeah, there we go. John19 saying pamp it. So yeah, shout out to Sharif there. Pump it, we shall. Pamp it, we shall. There we go. Yeah, so I think exciting times. Also, I do want to take a moment. I've been talking about Benzinga a lot today with regards to the lesson, but I also want to do our shout out to Benzinga because we are brought to you by Benzinga Pro. As you may or may not know, today you definitely know because we keep talking about it. But if you sign up today, you can get 50% off their premier news and research platform for retail traders. All you have to do is use the code TTV, capital letters. That is T to the T to the V, capital letters. Use the link in the description to go to checkout. And as we said, like there's a lot of features here. I like using the chart and this screen when I'm doing the morning. If you trade a lot of small caps, this is great because I find they have all the small cap news here. So I think this is, yeah, a fair time. I really I have to keep an eye on this. Also, I forgot Barkin speaking right now. Or
Barkin's barking. Barkin's barking. Oh, you know what we failed to do today? There, we forgot to do the housekeeping, which is when we look at what the economic events are. If we have any that day, let's go ahead into them now. Obviously, we had a whole bunch this morning. We had the jobs number, which really the market didn't really know how to digest. It sold off initially, then it pumped back up. I'm talking about non-farm payrolls. That was out this morning at 8:30. Go and have a look at that if you want. And then we also had the ISM non-manufacturing PMI come out at 10 o'clock. Adara brought that to you guys at the big desk. Now, Barkin started yapping at 1:30. So he's been talking for about 3 minutes, according to this calendar over here. Not sure how long he will be speaking. So Fed Barkin on the mic at the moment. I'm looking to see if there's anything else of importance. I'm looking down. There's nothing. There's other economic events, but typically ones that we don't cover. I'm talking about crude oil speculative net positions, gold speculative net positions. We don't talk about that kind of stuff on the show. Less commodities, more equities, I guess you could kind of say that. So we'll have to see whether or not we get any market moving events as a result of Fed Barkin speaking. Let me see what he's been saying here. I should be able to narrow my blotter down. No, so nothing yet on my blotter from Fed's Barkin. Now, I got to tell you, I know, I'm not really going to advertise my news blotter because they don't sponsor us, and so, too bad for them. But I have a search feature on my blotter, and so I have a hot news list. So it's bringing me all like the hot topics. They're completely uncategorized. They're all market based. And what I do sometimes when I want to narrow the search down, there's a search function. I just type in whatever keyword. It helps me narrow down what I'm looking for. Obviously, I'll look by date and time to see if they're still relevant or they're older stories. So if you have that function on your news blotter, I'd suggest you use it, especially if you kind of want to get a summary of what the Fed speaker has said. So sometimes, Fed Barkin will be on, Mary Daly, and then I'll want to kind of get a gist of what they've said on the interview or the speech without having to go and listen to the entire thing. And oftentimes I'll see a whole bunch of different news blotter entries on my news blotter from them, just basically surmising in one sentence whatever topic that they were covering. So if you have that option on your news blotter, I would suggest you use it. I use it often, especially on the big desk in the morning when I'm with Brendo. Not so much over here, though. Guys, any questions with respect to using your news blotter or finding stocks to trade using a news feature? Throw them in the chat for Adara and I. We've been talking all week about finding stocks to trade. If you are just joining us today on Monday, we discuss scanners, how to use all the different types of scanners using the Trade Idea software, using Benzinga. It's an excellent way to find, specialized stocks. It's not just for small cap gappers. On Tuesday, we talked to Michael Noss. He gave us his insight about how to find stocks to trade using Trade Ideas. Let's show you that real quick here in case you missed that lesson. Trade Ideas, this is the kind of the standard window for Trade Ideas. We're going to click New. We're going to go to Docked Channel Bar. And then right over here, you see Swing Picks. You click that bad boy and it loads up, and then what you have here is a TI strength. And go back and watch Michael Noss's interview with him and I on Tuesday, and he explains exactly how to use this TI strength, I guess, search or whatever, list, and how he uses it to find ideas for his swing trades. Shout out to him. And then on Wednesday, that was Wednesday. On yesterday, Thursday, we talked about my watch list, specifically mine, and then Neil came in and talked a little bit about his morning mix, how he finds stocks to trade in the morning. I shared my entire watch list, both what I term my growth watch list and my value watch list, as well as my ETF watch list. You can go back and watch that stream from yesterday, pause it, and you can see all the entries that I have on mine. And today we're talking specifically about news blotters, and Adara led the way today with the lesson because she is the one that's making the watch list every day, using that news blotter. We've been staying on theme this week about finding stocks to trade Adara.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun going through the newsletter today. I hope people learned a little something. Like I said, I think, no two snowflakes are alike.
Nope.
No two news blotter processes will be alike, especially it's a little bit different because I'm trying to get news for other people to trade, not just myself. But I think what I've learned there is really helpful for me trading as well. Like, someone was making a joke about me trading Eli Lilly and no volume because I was talking about, learning about how important volume is to trading. But honestly, I don't think I realized the extent of it until I did make mistakes like trying to trade Eli Lilly with no volume. Do you know what I mean? I think it's really important to kind of be aware of how stuff can impact the market. And so I'm really grateful, like I said, always for the opportunities that I'm having here to learn as a trader and, the news aspect as well.
Oh.
And I think trading has really helped me with the news aspect. But I think, you never know how a piece of news is going to impact the market. Thing I said, that Brendan said to me that I'm going to say again here is let the market tell you how it's reacting to a piece of news, and don't make any assumptions. The market knows better.
Oh,
like we're always saying over here, it does not care about your feelings, and so we have.
Sometimes we're not as polite when we say it that way. We say it a bit more aggressively.
Brusquely.
Yeah. Hey, whoa. I like it. We have multiple words of the day today.
I like that's
which is fine.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Also, there is a super chat from Oscarito, 676, $5 super chat. Sharif, what's your take on?
He said Sharif.
Yeah, I was trying to say Sharif. I didn't say it enough.
No, I'm just teasing. What's your take on Boyle? And I've got it ready over here. Adara, ready for to answer that question. Boyle is, I believe, the double levered, or is it triple levered? Is it double? Fund seeks daily investment fees that correspond to twice. So it's double. I just wasn't sure if it was double or triple. Nat gas, baby. Bloomberg natural gas sub-index. Nat gas has been running up as of late, whatever the reason is. Interesting look here, I got to say, Oscarito, because we did actually open up above the pivot point, right? That 4 a.m., excuse me. We were above that line, and then you had the IB high well above the pivot point. However, we did retrace aggressively. We came close off to that 32. I think 32, the whole dollar level held. That was in the pre-market. The technical low of the day is that 32.47, but it has been up and to the right since that time, coming in to that critical resistance level 1 using pivots, which is at 35 2/3. We already cleared 35 bucks, putting us green on the day now because that was yesterday's closing print. When we look at let's look at the 4-hour. Here on Boyle, you'll see that obviously this was the shellacking, which caused me to lose $1.25 on my nat gas swing trade. But since, let's say, mid-December, December 11th, we found a base, and now we are curling. We broke through the 50, and now we're knocking on the door of the 200 EMA on the 4-hour on Boyle. So nat gas has been kind of picking up lately. On the day, though, I got to tell you, we're at that interesting resistance level here. Because we did touch resistance level 1. We are above 35 bucks. Let's see if we can hold above 35 bucks. If there's a dip trade into 35, I might be interested to get long here. This one is not the one that I typically trade. I typically trade UNG, but Boyle is relevant as well. Holding that 10 EMA quite nice, above the implied balance high over here, which is this level over here. We cleared that. We cleared yesterday's closing print. We wicked above resistance level 1, but not on a closing basis. So let's see what it does at 35. It can hold 35, which is previous resistance from here, and definitely from yesterday as well. That's where we consolidated, and that was resistance level 2, the dotted line over here. We actually broke through that. So we'll see if we can break and hold above 35. Then I'll definitely be interested on this name going into the afternoon. But until then, I'm going to pack my patience. Now, back to NVDA trade. This is the 5-minute chart on NVIDIA. And I said I would be interested on NVIDIA. I would be interested in NVIDIA if we're able to kind of break this lower high trend that we were putting in. We were definitely holding support at 490. And I even Zion Lala messaged me in the chat, be like, hey man, what do you think about a short on NVIDIA below 490? And I concurred with him because what looked at the time was we were putting in lower highs for a flat bottom break through 490. That hasn't come to fruition yet. What I'm worried about on NVIDIA is if we don't get direction, we get sideways movement. By that I mean we start holding a range between say 490 and 493, and then that's $3. That's not a bad range to trade. But if you're looking for a breakout trade when something is ranging, you often get cut up, because what I'll do is I'll wait for the say 492.5 or 493 to break, thinking we can get a move back into 495, and what we end up doing is retracing back into that 490 area. So I end up stopping out. So I'm worried that NVIDIA becomes a little bit sideways consolidative between that range if it doesn't break and hold above that previous crested area at 492.5.
Yeah, no, NVIDIA definitely an interesting one. Right now, let's talk to Bard because we're in Google. I couldn't come up with a better pun for that. But I am in Google right now. I shorted this. I don't think you have to Google search for levels on this. I'll use that. So I got in at this 135.90-ish area because we were holding it really well as a top that we kept rejecting to the bottom of. So I have a couple different plans of profit taking. I don't really have enough shares here to disperse them. Tiny position, like I said. I think my new strategy is really small positions to just get more confident getting in and out of trades when I feel like I like the trade, because I think the less shares kind of lowers your risk a little bit, right? So my plan for profit takers is if we get to this 139.70, or sorry, 135.70. If we get to 139, I'll be long gone out of this short. If we get to 135.70, because that was a little bit of an area we had a little bit of support earlier. If we get out of there, I'm out. Then if we get any lower,
I like how you're hitting things now.
Yeah, everybody hits things here. So yeah, part of the club. I like it. Yeah. Sharif's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good time.
It's good. It's a solid desk that Randy made. You think we could
run into it enough that we would know. I'm always running into the desk, always bumping into the desk. So bumping into the big desk all the time too. But anyways, yeah, I'm just a clumsy person. But I do like the look of Google. My first plan is see how we, I scalpulate. See how we do at 135.70. If it looks like we have a little bit more room to go, I'll take it to 135.55-ish. And I say that because just really clear areas of support. Like I said, I don't think you have to Google search for levels here. In terms of getting out, if we have a decisive break above 136, I'm going to be out because this 135.90 has been holding so well. I'm really scared if we break out of this level. Yeah, here we go. So that is my look on Google. That is my take here, or Google. Shout out to Obi there. So Marvell still looking kind of interesting to me. I'm not going to get back in it. Like I said, I pretty much just trade in the midday. Some of the trades I make here are kind of the trades I make.
Speaking of Obi, so it's my Christmas this week, right? This weekend.
Merry Christmas.
It's Christmas Eve for me tomorrow, and then Christmas Day on the 7th because I'm Orthodox, right? Eastern Church. So I'm taking Monday off, and the OB1 Kenob will be filling in for me with you on Monday. So shout out to him. All the Obi lovers, make sure to check out the midday on Monday because Obi will be sitting here taking it live with Adara, and you know how Obi is. Likely there will be some sort of Amazon trading somewhere, Amazon analysis somewhere there. So make sure.
You're calling the man out over here.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. NVIDIA did break that 493 area now, so we really need to be thinking here seriously about an NVIDIA long, and the future is now at 16.5 again. The Mag 7 names have all started curling up. I'm talking about the Apples, I'm talking about the Teslas, the Amazons, and the Metas. Needless to say, obviously, NVIDIA is curling up as well. So I'm trying to make a decision as to what I'm going to do here on NVDA up 2 3/4. Now looking to March possibly into that 495 area that we talked about earlier, 495.47, the HOD on NVDA. However, they were all wicks. All the closing prints were south of 495. That is a level that I've been looking at there. So keep your eye on that. The future has now cleared above 16.5. So now if we can hold above 16.5, we don't do that wick dance where we get topping tail candles and retrace below, then this might be an interesting long going into power hour. The big kahunas are going to be on in about 13 minutes, Adara. So we'll see what kind of movement we get now on the future. But NVIDIA clearing $4.93, but about $0.25 now. Looking real good here.
Yeah, really good looking NVIDIA. Yeah, I got out of Google because I found I was having to search for patience, and I just didn't have it within me anymore.
You got to pack your patience, baby.
Yeah, well, I used it because the whole, Google search, but, and I could not, resist that. But yeah, I got out, I got a couple cents in the money. Google is having such a hard time decisively breaking below at 135.80. I was like, I'm only here for so much longer. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Also, Bob W saying Adobe Day. Yeah, I guess it will be Adobe Day for Obi and I. Also, the boring man, Amazon Obi. I'm assuming it's like a pun between amazing and Amazon, which is also great, and we love puns over here. Jimbo Slice saying another great show. Love the in video and out video. Thank you so much for your support. Sharif was in and out video today, throughout the day. So yeah, I mean, definitely a good NVIDIA kind of day. Oh, Bears versus Bulls coming in hot. Just a little patience, but pay with a Y.
There it is, baby. There it is. We hit the Bears versus Bulls, the world's greatest moderator. I always say this. It's not you, Cal Canis.
Yeah.
It's Bears versus
Cal Canis. Go, Cal Canis.
Cal Canis has been a bit of a diva lately on.
Oh my God, him drinking his Veuve Clicquot.
Yeah, he keeps getting made fun of by the other, and he gets so defensive. Have you noticed?
So upset.
Yeah, it's been funny to watch him lately.
Yeah.
It really all started with the Tucker Carlson interview.
I noticed that.
Right, and then Tucker made fun of him, right? And he basically called him stupid to his face. And then he pretended like it didn't happen, and then they were best buddies by the end of the show. And then ever since then, it's just been kind of downhill for Cal Canis.
Yeah, no, it's really funny because of the whole, they're going to go skiing or something. I don't know. It was a really weird interview.
He's not going with him.
Yeah, that's just what we're joking. Bears versus Bulls. The best moderator doesn't need to drink Veuve Clicquot to be a great moderator over here.
Speaking of podcasts, the best podcast around will be taped today. Well, recorded today, I should say, and it will be released 9 a.m. I thought it was 9:30, but they've changed that. 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Brendo and the Katina Man are going to be recording that bad boy today. And Katina Man was just sitting next to me, and he was writing stuff down. And I'm like, Sean, what are you doing over there? I always want to know what you're doing. He's like, I'm prepping for the pod, so make sure to check out the podcast. What's going on over there? There it is. No, there it is. Breaking news is podcast time, baby. I like that. I like that breaking news item. That's pretty good. Hey, Katina, man, I'm trying to talk over here, bro.
He's looking all the fun.
He's hitting all the buttons. He's continuing hitting all the buttons. But yeah, make sure to check out the podcast 9 a.m. tomorrow, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. Katina, man, Brendo. Being recorded today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I like to get some of the notes together and stuff, and I think it should be hopefully a pretty interesting show. I watch it every weekend. It's one of my makeup podcasts, like as I said.
I like that. Yeah.
I like doing my makeup while watching podcasts because I'm getting a little bit of knowledge
in
there.
What happened, Neil?
Oh, I don't want.
I never wanted to ask that question because the podcast is over an hour. I never wanted to ask that. Neil asked how long it takes her to do her makeup.
I don't get offended by this question.
Okay, that's fine. Go.
So for work, it's under 20 minutes. It's never going to be over 20 minutes. But I'll piece out the podcast because on YouTube, it'll it'll pause where you finish. So then the next day I go and it's the same amount. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not the type of person who's upset by that. I'm pretty fast.
I know.
So
I knew. You're not a person like that gets upset about random stuff easily. No, you're pretty chill like that. I like that.
Because I like answer. I feel like a lot of times, obviously there are some people just asking questions to ask questions, but I think a lot of times people ask questions is because they're actually curious.
Yeah.
Or in that case, it makes sense. I'm sure Neil was like, "What? How long is this? What time is she getting up?" You know what I mean? So I totally understand that.
Funny.
Combat Rex saying sheesh, Neil. But yeah.
I know Neil's he's holding no punches, baby. Neil wants to know.
But yeah. I thought that was funny there.
Yeah. He says he didn't mean anything by it. He just blurted it. No,
It's
but
okay.
I don't think she cares.
I was
Yeah,
not
yeah.
offended. And I mean, it's because I was thinking, I keep saying this, people are probably thinking I'm like doing a whole hour podcast for makeup. So I like that I get to clarify.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good way for me to absorb market info and get into market mode, as I said.
Yes, ma'am.
So, to go back to what we were talking about, what's shaking for you?
Diamond Realty of Miami wanted me to look at coin here. He's like, it's about to flush. So I pulled up Coinbase. Let's pull up coin. What's going on here? COIN. Just allow me a moment because I thought I had it, but coin on the NASDAQ. Yep, you can come to the screen now. What is going on with this topping tail candle? We're going to have to fix that 156.53. Let's go ahead and adjust that bad boy. We're going to do that for you live. For anybody using here, 156. Oh, it's not that. It's this one. 156.53. There we go. That'll get rid of that wick. And now we can see, okay, so I don't know if coin's about to flush, Diamond Realty of Miami. I got to tell you the truth, my man. I think you're probably...
It flush and then pop back up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why we don't like to jump into anything. We need to see confirmation. But I got to tell you, guys, it looks like we're moving up here. The Mag 7 names most of them are starting to curl back up. Apple's pumping now above 182. Tesla's now breaking through 239. You're getting that break through 352 on Meta. And now we have a decided break on NVIDIA through 493. And we're also at 16.5 on the future. Okay? I got to tell you, Amazon and Microsoft look awfully weak, not really responding to much of this move. Maybe a little bit Google as well at that 136 level, not able to take it quite yet, but it looks like Meta, Apple, Tesla, and NVIDIA really getting a nice little bounce here. And you could even make an argument there's a bit of a double bottom on all of them. Like, look at this double bottom here at VWAP on NVIDIA, same look over here on Meta, and then an awfully similar look here on Apple at that 180-121. A bit of a double bottom there, whether it's a double bottom or not. Hard to tell. A skewed up, a more bullish double bottom on TSLA off that 236.5. Now we're talking about that 239 break. So the future kind of helping propel up a little bit of these Mag 7 names. But I got to tell you, I'm not interested in anything at the moment. Given that there is 6 minutes left on the show, we'll have to see what these names do into the closing time frame at Dara, but nice pop on all of them here, especially with Apple above that 182 level. We're going to have to pack our patience and see. Anything else you guys have in the chat that you want us to talk about or cover, throw it in there for us. We got about 5 minutes left on the show. It has been a great week, I would say. Not for the market, because the market's really been tanking, especially if you're long-oriented, but we covered so many topics that I want to cover this week. We talked about scanners, swing trade ideas, watch lists, and today we talked about news blotters, some of the fundamental tools you need to master in order to really be able to get your feet under you when it comes to trading. And if you can use all of them in harmony, I think that is the best combination of Dara, and you've been really kind of learning firsthand how to do all that.
Yeah, no, I think, I hope people, learned a little something. Of course, I think the big thing is, it's really going to depend on the person too, right? So you can't, everyone's going to have different things they look for. Different people trade different kinds of stocks, you know what I mean? So Sharif always has his eyes on the small cappers, whereas when I'm at the big desk, I maybe don't have my eyes much on the small cappers, except for when I kind of need to, you know what I mean? Or I know, Neil's usually very apprised of the small cappers, but Sean doesn't trade them as much. I almost said the Sean cappers, the small cappers.
They're like the Neil cappers, really.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, right? If they're anyone. But yeah, so I wanted to say, I think that is, good times there. Also, someone mentioning their name in the chat is very aptly held, and I say apt because the question they ask is, any thoughts on Lily?
Ooh, oh.
And when do I not have thoughts on Lily?
You're going to be all over that.
I'm excited, and I think there's kind of an interesting level in Lily forming here. So I'm going to start with the daily, or I guess the intraday, I mean. Nice
guys, go to her chart.
Here. First in the pre-market, then again, this 10 o'clock area. Swoop to the upside, higher highs. Nice move. Yesterday we had a big catalyst on Lilly. It's called Lilly Direct. Their obesity program. So it's like, how you can do direct to consumer type with the pharmacy drugs. Sharif was imparting his thoughts on that.
I just want to chime in here a little bit, because I was actually asking Brendo that. I'm like, how do you think they're going to organize this? Because you can't buy Ozempic OTC off the shelf, right? you have to have a doctor prescribe it. So they're obviously going to have some sort of prescribing network if they're going to do a direct-to-consumer, meaning they're going to get doctors involved, there's blood tests involved, they can't just write it to you, got to get blood tests done. Either they're going to use registered professional nurses or doctors, so there's going to be a whole thing here, right? And then, you know, when I think this way, I'm thinking about where I can profit from this, some way, somehow. So the direct-to-consumer, it's not like about Amazon sending you, I don't know, like whatever. There's a whole regulatory framework to this, by the way.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. No, I appreciate you for saying that, because I know you also do have, like, you have the little bit of
Yeah, that's the
Connect.
thing that came to my mind, first thing, yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I think we had a bit of a peak here at the 619.50 area. Then we kind of went to the downside. Right now, interesting levels for me. Biggest one is the 616.50. I tried to get a short off of that, it did not get filled. I mean, just briefly, because we're done in like 3 minutes anyway. But I like that we had, you know, a little bit of a swoop down off that 616.50. Guess what? We came, or 616.50. We came back. Guess what? We were rejected again. Now, in terms of profit-taking areas, I do like this 614, again, not advice, just my take on the chart, on a chart that I really enjoy too. This 614 would be kind of an area for me. Last area would be that area we bounced off of, that 611. Daily, Eli Lilly actually made a new all-time high yesterday, fun fact. We did get, as you can see, up to that 635. I was trading Lilly up, down, left, and right yesterday. This kind of double, almost triple top around that 625 is interesting though. So I think that's definitely an area to keep in mind. Lots of nice strength here on Lilly. Looks like we're making higher lows, and we do have that new catalyst. So there we go. Darwin making a joke, hey bro, I got some Ozempic, want a sample.
No,
Darwin's
thank you. I saw what Fonzie said. He's like, there's a black market. That's not what I'm talking about, Ponzi. I'm talking about getting it DTC, direct to consumer. We saw Nike doing it, circumventing Foot Locker. Everybody and their mother wants to have direct to consumer because the margins are there, right? You don't have to pay the wholesaler. You don't have to pay the middleman, but you're going to have to pay the doctors in this case. So Oleg saying a smart comment there in the chat. He's like, they're going to use TDOC. Long TDOC. No, I'm just joking. That's not
Kathy,
financial advice.
we know
Shout out to Aunt Kathy. Do we have the Aunt Kathy animation, Ram? There we go. Oh, that's the Chilean Nightmare. No, that's not right now. All right. Well, sorry, not right now. It's not available. 1 minute left. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I hope we learned a lot. I think it was, and I appreciate, you know, Sharif and everybody here for letting me take the wheel today and talk about my, what I look for in the news. And thank you for asking questions. I really got the opportunity to reflect a little bit more on what I was talking about.
Your Ponzi, you're killing me, bro. Stop.
Also, I just want to say thank you so much, Bears versus Bulls, for all you do, and I appreciate your comment here. Thanking us for here. I hope everybody's getting a little something out of it. And I think too, the biggest thing, I mentioned this earlier, but the biggest thing I want to talk about with regards to what I've learned so far with checking the news is it's really great to have like a whole community of people to bounce off of. Everyone here has been great.
Absolutely.
Traders in the back, everybody here on the team, and I think a part of having community is what helps too, and I hope people are able to learn here in the chat with us as well. And look, Aunt Kathy's calling. Hello? Well, I guess we're gonna have to go and take that call. Sharif, what'd you say?
Don't call me when I'm on the show. All right.
But so for now, we will let it go. We'll have Obi and I. You're taking a trip to the jungle, to Amazon here on Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. But for now, Brendan is in fact at the big desk.
Hey guys, welcome back in. A couple hours to go here on a Friday afternoon as we head towards the weekend. We just got a Krispy Kreme delivery, so whoever that was from, thank you very much. Let's talk about what is happening.